701, Cruel News Land of Wind, Hidden Sand Village. Kazakage's office. Yakushimaru, are you certain the report you filed is accurate? Are you saying Iwagakure really intends to destroy the Shinobi sect? Rasa asked, frowning. During that meeting, Iwagakure's representatives from Six Path City made that intention clear, Yakushimaru answered. Their elaborate scheme to sow discord hadn't even been put into motion yet. Simply by speaking, Iwagakure immediately condemned the Shinobi sect's ambitions. That was hardly the behavior of a cooperative ally. Then, why have they been avoiding the topic of joint military action? At first, Rasa had been pleased with Yakushimaru's progress and had quickly sent envoys to negotiate with Iwagakure. But the results were unsatisfying. Iwagakure did not outwardly reject cooperation, yet whenever Tsunagakure raised the possibility of a combined military strike to eradicate the Shinobi sect, Iwagakure made excuses. They offered supplies but refused to send shinobi to the battlefield, claiming the Shinobi World War had already cost them too much. Rasa wasn't naive. Iwagakure had surrendered so quickly in the final battle that their casualties had been negligible. Even their earlier loss to Konoha had been minor. It made no sense. Perhaps they want to weaken Tsunagakure by letting us do the dirty work, Yakushimaru said after a moment. Compared to open participation, Iwagakure clearly preferred to be a quiet bystander. Perhaps, Rasa agreed, folding his arms and thinking it over, but it's odd that they're so willing to provide so many resources. Iwagakure's money was tempting. It could nearly bankroll a campaign for Tsunagakure. And the Shinobi sect did threaten Tsunagakure's interests. They were a force that needed to be confronted. Still, something felt off. Every Shinobi village needed funds. Why would Iwagakure be so ready to hand over such a large sum? Because the matter was serious, Rasa called in the Tsunagakure Anbu and summoned the village's senior advisors for a council. Advisor Chiyo, Advisor Ebizo, Rasa greeted as they entered and took their seats. He would not normally be so formal with senior officials, but these two were different. Chiyo and Ebizo had been prominent leaders in the village since the Second Shinobi World War, and were among Tsunagakure's most senior elders now. Chiyo was the greatest puppeteer in the Shinobi world, her mastery of ninjutsu unmatched in the history of puppetry. Ebizo, while not as powerful in combat, ran Tsunagakure's intelligence apparatus. During the civil unrest after the third Kazakage's disappearance, he had been the de facto controller of the Anbu directly under the Kazakage. Most importantly, they were siblings, a fact Rasa had always kept an eye on. He was fortunate Chiyo's grandson had left the village. After Sasori left, Chiyo had seemed hollow, rarely involving herself in politics, instead losing herself in research or going fishing. Ebizo, out of concern for his sister, had also stepped back from much of his work to accompany her. That let Rasa quietly expand his influence in high-level matters. Fourth Hokage, the two acknowledged with a nod, neither cold nor overly warm. Once everyone important was present, Rasa began. The Shinobi sect's rapid expansion threatens our shared interests with Iwagakure, but Iwagakure's behavior in negotiations is odd. He outlined the strange terms Iwagakure had offered. The advisors debated briskly. There is definitely a problem. If Iwagakure refuses to directly intervene, perhaps they have intelligence we lack, one said. Or they're conserving strength for other plans. Still, the funding relieves a lot of military pressure, another countered. Opinions split. Some argued taking the money was worth it. Tsunagakure could not just stand by while the Shinobi sect grew. Others insisted the funds were too suspicious, and Iwagakure ploy hiding deeper motives. Chiyo sat quietly, watching the argument with little interest. If the village's situation allowed it, she would have retired long ago. Her son and daughter-in-law had died in battle. Her grandson had abandoned her. She had given much to the village and expected nothing in return. I will activate the Anbu in the Land of Rain and the Land of Earth to investigate. Iwagakure's behavior is abnormal, Ebizo said. Intelligence work made him particularly sensitive to these kinds of irregularities. This matter is too important for a hasty decision. Thorough investigation is required. I'll rely on you, Advisor Ebizo. The room agreed. Those who had earned seats at this level were not fools. Something about Iwagakure was off, and they needed clarity. The meeting adjourned until Ebizo reported back. What Ebizo did not expect was that, Even before his inquiries into Iwagakure were complete, another lead surfaced, one that struck him hard. After reading the intelligence, he went straight to Chiyo. "I think I've found Sasori," he said. For the first time in their conversation, a flicker of emotion crossed Chiyo's expression. Then, she shook her head with bleak resignation. What good would it do to find him? If Sasori had been driven away or harmed, Chiyo would have done everything to locate him. But Sasori had left of his own accord. He had chosen to abandon her. With Chiyo standing in the village, if she truly wanted to find him, she could have. Except she hadn't. For years, she had not actively searched for him, because even if she found him, she could not force him to stay. He had chosen his path. Where is he? How is he living? Has he settled somewhere? Chiyo still asked. He was her grandson. She worried despite herself. It's Six Path City, in the Land of Rain. I can't say if he's settled or just staying temporarily. The intelligence suggests he may be there, Ebizo explained. The kinds of ninjutsu referenced in the reports couldn't have been produced by the second-rate puppeteers outside Sunagakure. Given the direction Sasori's puppet research had been taking, the prosthetic puppet limbs now appearing in the Shinobi sect's arsenal pointed back to him. Even if Sasori himself wasn't physically in the Land of Rain, the source of the technology likely was. Six Path City? That's where the Shinobi sect is, Chiyo murmured. She knew of the Shinobi sect, the upstart force with grand ambitions. Although she had paid less attention to village affairs since Sasori's departure, the Land of Rain bordered the Land of Wind, and news always found its way to her. Either Sasori has joined the Shinobi sect, or he has some form of cooperation with them, Ebizo added. Chiyo flinched. She wanted to reject the idea outright. Sasori had left Hidden Sand Village and her side. Why would he go to a force outside that was, in many ways, inferior? From the standpoint of both technical resources for puppet research and family loyalty, it didn't fit. Ebizo didn't press, he only sighed. In his years in intelligence, he had learned to let facts speak. For Chiyo, the news dimmed something inside her. Sasori had been gone only 4 or 5 years, not long for her own life, but for a young man it was a substantial portion of his life. He might have experienced things she could not imagine and changed in ways she could not foresee. Why the Shinobi sect of all places? She whispered. The Shinobi sect had the ambition and potential to become Sunagakure's next great threat. If not for the fear of Sosuke's ability against Hiruzen Sarutobi, Sunagakure might already have invaded the Land of Rain. If Sasori had truly allied with the Shinobi sect, he would now stand opposite his homeland. The thought of facing her own grandson in battle made Chiyo feel faint. It's only a possibility, Ebizo said gently. I'll have my spies confirm Sasori's status at all costs. Ebizo should have been focusing his attention on the Land of Earth and Iwagakure, but he could not let Chiyo be left in the dark. If Chiyo learned of this and went to Six Path City herself, entering might be easy, but leaving would depend entirely on the Shinobi sect and Sosuke's disposition. Ebizo could not allow his sister to take such a risk. He had hesitated to tell her at all, knowing how terrible the news would be, but the Shinobi sect's prosthetic technology was no longer secret. Chiyo could have learned the connection from other sources and drawn the same conclusion. Better she heard it from him first. Chiyo nodded once. She had planned to go fishing that day. The weather was pleasant, but the thought vanished the moment Ebizo spoke, her mind filled with thoughts of Sasori. She clung to the hope that the intelligence was mistaken, that Sasori was neither in the Land of Rain nor allied with the Shinobi sect. After his enlightenment skill reset, Mu Yue went to Mount Myoboku to learn sage art. Fukasaku felt both pleased and weary at his arrival. Pleased because he had another tasty guest to host. Weary because Mu Yue's way of learning was unusual. He loved to ask about all kinds of principles and theories. A little discussion was fine, but talking all day drained the toad. The mental strain was heavier than any physical labor. Worse, Mu Yue learned so fast, sometimes a hint was enough, and the material Fukasaku had prepared didn't last a day. Thank you, Mu Yue said as he left. The more exhausted Fukasaku was, the more Mu Yue improved. In just 2 days, his Sage Mode proficiency rose by 500 points. At that pace, mastery seemed possible in about 2 months. No trouble. Come again when you're free, Fukasaku said with a smile. Teaching was tiring, but watching Mu Yue's understanding deepen brought him a real sense of accomplishment. If Mu Yue kept this up, Fukasaku thought privately, his student might catch up to the toad's own understanding in a few years. Humans learned faster than toads. After several hundred years of cultivating sage art, the toads could suddenly be matched by someone like Mu Yue in a few short years. Mu Yue returned to Konoha via reverse summoning jutsu and went back to his study to organize what he had learned. Even with excellent memory, he liked writing things down. Paper made development easier. After recording his gains, he opened a fresh page and wrote in large characters, "Breathing Stream Sage Art." The more Mu Yue understood Sage Mode, the more he felt Mount Myoboku's version was ill-suited for teaching to his disciples. There was the old problem of duration. Even if the toads recognized his disciples, only Fukasaku and Shima could use the two great sages' art. If his disciples all needed Sage Mode in a large battle, at most 2 could be the power banks. Naruto's shadow clone refills were fiddly and risky. More important, the learning threshold for Sage Mode was extremely high. Apart from an outlier like Nagato, even Obito, who had vast chakra, was still far from the minimum requirements. Kakashi, even after 10 more years of training, would likely never meet those demands. Excluding the chakra sealed in the Yang seal, Kakashi's reserves among Mu Yue's students were only higher than Rin Nohara's. High threshold, difficult and dangerous to cultivate, and no guarantee of battlefield impact. Mu Yue couldn't ignore all these shortcomings and simply wait for his disciples to meet Mount Myoboku's requirements. First, I need to solve the problem of sensing and absorbing natural energy, he wrote as the first issue to tackle. Beyond Mount Myoboku's limitations, Mu Yue had discovered something surprising about breathing technique during his sage training. If a breathing technique user could gain the ability to sense natural energy, the breathing technique itself would be enhanced. For his breathing proficient disciples, that would be a welcome update, like a version upgrade. I need to develop a method for the breathing stream sage art to sense natural energy, he added. The secret the toads used to sense and absorb natural energy was only suitable for Mount Myoboku Sage Mode. Without sufficient chakra, attempting it would 100% corrode the user with natural energy and turn them into stone frogs. That night, after dinner, Kakashi sat on the veranda, polishing the gleam of his new katana. After Mu Yue defeated Uchiha Madara, Kakashi had gathered the shattered White Fang short sword and, with the intact pieces, had a renowned weaponsmith recast it into a katana, incorporating chakra metal and other precious materials. A short sword no longer fit his needs. A tachi or katana was more practical now. Kakashi sheathed the new White Fang and moved to the wooden dummy in his courtyard. He drew the blade, and in a single silver-white slash, the dummy split in 2. Satisfied, he nodded. The new White Fang wasn't Enma, but it was far more comfortable than the old short sword. He resolved to use White Fang Aga, inst weaker foes, and call on Enma only for the strongest opponents. Enma was powerful but exhausting to use. Just as he was about to go inside to maintain the blade, a familiar voice called from outside the courtyard. "Kakashi, are you home?" "No." "I can see you, and you say you're not." Obito stood at the gate, scowling. He tried to trick Kakashi, but Kakashi, as always, didn't fall for it. "If you saw me, why ask?" Kakashi replied. "Isn't it just polite?" Obito said, chuckling awkwardly. He would have preferred not to come, if not for the favor he needed. He'd won first place in the disciples' internal competition and expected jealous looks from the pale-haired, infuriating Kakashi. Kakashi said nothing, opened the door, and asked, "If you need something, say it." If Obito came alone at this hour, he wasn't just visiting for company. "How can you be so sure I'm here to ask for help? I'm the strongest ninja among the disciples," Obito declared, puffing up. Maybe Kakashi had been strong once, but times change. He was the best now. "Then there's nothing, I suppose. I'll continue my training. You do as you please," Kakashi replied calmly. "All right, you guessed right. I do need your help." Obito's tone softened. Even as Mu Yue's strongest disciple, he couldn't teach jutsu he didn't know. "Tell me what it is, but I might refuse," Kakashi warned. With Obito's impulsive thinking, the request could be odd. "Nothing much. I want you to give my squad some pointers on lightning release," Obito said. The reward he offered was to teach each of them a corresponding elemental jutsu, but of the 3, only Anko used fire, Kotetsu Hagane used lightning, and Izumo Kamizuki used water. The strongest lightning user Obito knew besides Mu Yue, who was now Hokage, was Kakashi. He could ask other jonin to teach Kotetsu, but if he was going to spend a favor, he wanted the best. Oh, Kakashi's answer was non-committal. Kakashi, will you agree or not? Give me a straight answer, Obito urged, wringing his hands. He felt he was sacrificing a lot for his teammates. What's in it for me if I agree? They're your teammates, not mine. Why shouldn't I use that time to practice my lightning release? Kakashi asked. Obito thought hard. Paying Kakashi for his time wasn't unreasonable. Ninja work often came with fees, but he had nothing obvious to offer. How about I teach you a fire release, or let me teach others? He offered weakly. Money wouldn't impress Kakashi. That was obvious. Kakashi turned to leave. Kakashi, stop! Don't make me beg you, Obito shouted, pride warring with desperation. With that tone, anyone might think he wanted to fight. Kakashi paused and turned back. Then, coolly, 100,000 ryo. If you're willing to pay, tell me the time. Obito froze. Kakashi could be bought. If he'd known it was that simple, he would have said up front, I want to buy your time. It's a deal. Tomorrow morning at Training Ground 2, Obito said without hesitation, worried Kakashi might change his mind. Kakashi nodded. Obito waved and sprinted toward the Uchiha compound. He didn't know many water release ninjas. Rin Nohara's water release wasn't as strong as Kakashi's lightning, but she was the best option he knew. Obito had planned his route. Find Kakashi first, then Rin. Bitter first, then sweet. He also hoped Rin wouldn't see him beg Kakashi. He wasn't ready for her to witness that. When he reached Rin's neighborhood, he saw her on an evening stroll with her parents, a warm family scene that made him pause. As an orphan, Obito had never experienced that kind of normalcy. Obito, good evening, Rin greeted, smiling. He was still dazed and nodded blankly. Rin jogged up and peered into his face with her large, clear eyes. Obito, why are you spacing out? He blinked and found her gaze strangely stirring. Ah, ha ha, he stammered and stepped back, embarrassed. Curses, Kakashi. If only he knew water release, Obito muttered internally. Rin, we're heading home, her parents said. She waved. Goodbye, uncle and aunt, Obito said quick. Lie. Obito, did you come to see me? Rin asked, tilting her head sweetly. Yes, Rin, you're so smart, Obito said, scratching his head and suddenly pleased that she seemed to understand him. I just became a captain, and someone on my team needs water release training. Could you teach him? I won't let you come here for nothing, Rin. I'll give you 100,000 ryo, he added out of habit. He'd promised Kakashi the same. Rin lowered her head and looked momentarily sad. Obito panicked. Had money offended her? No, it's not what you think. I just felt I couldn't let you work for nothing, he explained urgently. Then Rin giggled, a teasing little smile blossoming like spring cherry blossoms. Obito, you're too easy to trick. I know you're not that kind of person. She covered her mouth and laughed softly. Mu Yue and Kakashi liked to tease Obito, and sometimes Rin did too. I'll help whether there's compensation or not. It's your request, Obito, she said. Then it's settled. To tomorrow morning at Training Ground 2, Obito managed, his face flushing. Rin, I have something urgent. I should go. See you tomorrow. He fled as if in a daze toward the Uchiha compound. A few kilometers away his heart calmed and he breathed easy. Rin is the best, he praised inwardly, and silently gave Kakashi a thumbs down. Walking home, Obito thought about Rin's kindness, unsure whether it matched the hope in his heart. He didn't dare ask for confirmation yet. If the answer wasn't what he wanted, he'd be crushed. Early morning. Obito woke up early, ate quickly, and headed to Training Ground number 2. On the way, if he saw an elderly person who needed help, he sent out a shadow clone to assist while his real body kept going. After all, he'd been the one to suggest Kakashi and the others come. He couldn't be the one to be late. With the extra momentum from waking early, he arrived at the training ground while it was still empty. First objective, complete. After 6 or 7 minutes, students began arriving, Izumo Kamizuki and Kotetsu Hagane among them. Captain Obito, good morning. You're here early, Kotetsu greeted. Most ninja teams had set assembly times, so everyone tended to show up around the same hour. I'm the captain, Obito said with a nod. It's fine to be early. Soon the rest of the team had gathered. Kakashi and Rin weren't there yet, intentionally. Obito had given them a later time on purpose. Captain Obito, which ninja did you find to teach us lightning release? Kotetsu asked eagerly. Yoshio Ishizaka didn't know lightning release at all, and Kotetsu had high hopes for whatever reward Obito had arranged. You're all going to be my future shadow guards. I wouldn't shortchange you. It'll be a powerful jonin, Obito said, slapping Kotetsu on the shoulder. One of the best in the whole ninja world, his lightning release is off the charts. Kotetsu's eyes lit up. Even if it was a little unfair to Yoshio, he had to admit Obito sounded impressive. Obito himself had a reputation, a prodigy, a notable member of Konoha's Uchiha, and a student of the Hokage. No one doubted he had connections. Kakashi arrived then and overheard the praise. Of course, he's still a bit weaker than me, Obito added with a chuckle. Kakashi wore an expression that said, as expected. The compliment was a thinly veiled bid to make himself look better by comparison. Still, it was true enough. Kakashi couldn't beat Obito at the moment, even if it rankled. It's Senior Kakashi, Izumo called out as Kakashi approached. To them, if Obito was the amazing first-year prodigy, Kakashi was a legend. He'd enrolled at 5, graduated at 5. His history at the Ninja Academy was the stuff of myth. Kotetsu's grin spread ear to ear. Kakashi's reputation for lightning-release sword techniques meant Kotetsu might one day learn something similar. Oh, it's you guys. Anko-chan, long time no see, Rin greeted with a smile. Rin knew Anko and Kotetsu from special training sessions when Mu Yue had come to the academy. Let's have Dango together sometime, Anko answered enthusiastically. Izumo mentally took it in. If Rin was teaching, that was a good sign. Rin was known not only for water release, but also for medical ninjutsu, rumored to have learned directly from Tsunade. That made Izumo even more eager. Obito glanced at Kakashi. Kakashi, even though you lost to me last time, don't be discouraged. Keep working, and you might catch up. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Who's even talking about that? But Izumo was quick to praise. It must have been an amazing fight. Too bad I missed it. Obito beamed. Don't worry, there'll be more chances. So, who wants to learn lightning release from me? Kakashi asked the three. Kotetsu. Kotetsu stepped forward without hesitation. Work hard, Kakashi said. If you learn well, I have a mysterious reward. Kotetsu practically squealed. Being taught by Kakashi was a reward in itself, and now another prize on top of that? Heaven. What reward? Can I have it? Anko chimed in. A very interesting photo, Kakashi said calmly, word that made Obito's face drop. Team member Kotetsu, I'm not lecturing, but ninja training is about gaining strength to protect the village. Chasing rewards will sully that dream, Obito declared solemnly. Kotetsu blinked. Wasn't Obito the same guy who'd just promised rewards? Team member Anko, too. We, Team 6, must purge bad habits. Keep your training pure, Obito continued righteously. Anko thought of the dango Obito had offered before and nodded. Kakashi, what you said makes sense. I won't call it a rewa, ard, then I'll just give it to everyone. Kakashi agreed and reached into his pouch. Obito reacted instantly, moving with terrifying speed to grab Kakashi's hand. Let's talk aside so Rin can teach uninterrupted, he said, pulling Kakashi behind a big tree and forcing a controlled, concentrated breath. Anko scratched her head. They always look like they're talking about secret stuff I don't understand. They're just close, Rin said with a smile. Behind the tree, Kakashi grinned. Worried about your glorious image taking a hit? Obito clasped his hands as if in apology. There were a lot of people. Kakashi, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have kept saying you were inferior and that you lost. I promise that when I become Hokage, all white-haired people will have to take a test every day. He was half joking, half serious, still seething about a photo that had threatened him before. That white-haired person had to be punished. Let's forget about the photo. Anko and the others really dislike pics anyway, Obito continued, mentally composing his revenge while he spoke. Kakashi smiled. Then we should do desensitization training so they won't be thrown off during missions. Add another 100,000 ryo to the training fee, Obito blurted, grimacing. 100,000 ryo would buy him a much better camera. Kakashi's expression shifted instantly. Come to think of it, a photo as a reward isn't ideal. He hadn't meant to really embarrass Obito. Seeing Obito's suffering was too funny. In the end, Kakashi and a smiling but inwardly plotting Obito walked back to the group. Show me your strongest lightning release ninjutsu, Kakashi told Kotetsu. Lightning release, electric shockwave. Kotetsu formed signs quickly, gathered chakra in his palms, and converted it into lightning release. Yellow lightning crackled over his hands as twin bolts fired at a wooden dummy 10 meters away, leaving scorched marks. Kakashi gauged Kotetsu's level. He would teach him a technique suited to his skill. I'm going to teach you lightning release, violent lightning spear, Kakashi said. It's a B-rank technique developed by Master Mu Yue. Kakashi could have taught more advanced moves like fake darkness or purple lightning, but they used too much chakra for Kotetsu right now. Hearing B-rank and Mu Yue, Kotetsu nodded like a chick finding grain. The only B-rank he had so far was Shadow Clone. In lightning release, he only knew a C and a D. Rin decided to teach Izumo Muyu's Raging Current Binding, a water release that didn't consume too much chakra but demanded fine chakra shaping. If Izumo mastered it, it would be a lifelong trump card. He'd been jealous of Kotetsu at first, but once Rin began instructing, he realized how capable she was and dove into his training with focus. Obito chose to teach Anko the Flame Vortex, good range, strong ninjutsu power, and useful in support roles. Each member had a technique tailored to their level and future needs. The morning's training began in earnest, each student learning a step closer to becoming the protectors they were being groomed to be. 704. Change 6-Path City, Land of Rain, noon. After finishing his training, Nagato went to the laboratory to find Sasori, and the two of them headed to the Shinobi sect cafeteria for lunch. When Konan and Yahiko were still in the sect, Nagato usually ate with them. Since Sasori joined, Nagato almost always ate with him. Yahiko and Konan were never truly alone, but Sasori was different. His place in the Shinobi sect was precarious. Aside from Nagato, he had no friends, and rarely spoke to anyone. If Nagato weren't there, Sasori would almost certainly eat by himself. Nagato remembered a time when he wandered alone, feeling like he didn't belong anywhere in the Shinobi world. Even in crowded streets, he had been surrounded by a deep loneliness until he met Yahiko and Konan, and the three of them supported one another. Sasori, far from home in a foreign land, must feel that same isolation. Nagato knew he couldn't magically lift Sasori out of hatred or erase that loneliness. He didn't have Mu Yue's skill or Yahiko's charisma, but he hoped simply being there might help. He had been given means to help others now, and he wanted to try. His own past had been worse than Sasori's, but he had met Yahiko, Jiraiya, and Mu Yue. These ninjas are dumber than the last batch. It's so hard for them to learn such simple operations. I was already better than this when I was 7, Sasori grumbled over lunch, complaining about the Shinobi sect students practicing techniques in his lab. Their foundation is poor, and you're a genius, Nagato replied. Puppet ninjutsu was rare in the Shinobi sect, and Mu Yue himself had gaps in that knowledge. That's true, but thankfully they're diligent. Otherwise they'd never accomplish anything with puppets in this lifetime, Sasori conceded after a moment. The students might lack talent, but they worked hard. Want to walk around the city? Nagato asked when they finished. 6-Path City is much more prosperous than before. It's changed a lot. Sasori had arrived during the Youth Martial Arts Tournament and, besides a few days working on a construction site, had mostly stayed inside the Shinobi sect's base. At that time, 6-Path City was barely a decent town. After the Shinobi sect made use of opportunities during the Shinobi World War, the city exploded in growth. Now its area was more than 10 times larger, and its prosperity rivaled the Land of Rain's capital. How prosperous can this backwater be? Sasori snorted. But a walk's fine. Maybe I can find a chance to escape. Then let's go. Nagato didn't take the escape talk seriously. Since Sasori had been brought into the Shinobi sect, Nagato had watched him change. At first, Sasori tried every way to run. When he realized he couldn't, he grew despondent. Later, he accepted things and worked hard to reduce his sentence. Now Nagato even saw him in good moods from time to time. He might leave the sect when his sentence ended, but he wasn't going to bolt and disappear. They wandered through 6-Path City together. It's a bit nicer than before, but that's about it, Sasori remarked. You deserve some credit, Nagato said suddenly. Sasori straightened with a touch of pride. His technology had certainly brought money to the Shinobi sect. Remember that place? Nagato asked, pointing at a house. The construction site you worked on was responsible for that area. Sasori's face darkened. So that was the credit Nagato meant. There might even be bricks he had laid. Just kidding, Nagato added with a smile. Your contribution to the Shinobi sect is far greater than building a house. Has anyone ever told you you have no sense of humor? That wasn't funny, Sasori shot back flatly. Is that so? Nagato felt mildly deflated. He wasn't much of a joker. In the Akatsuki, he had been the one who needed cheering up. All right, maybe it was a little funny. Someone with a low sense of humor might laugh, Sasori amended. That's better, Nagato sighed in relief. Who wouldn't want to be a little more humorous? He sometimes imagined learning to tell jokes just to make Conan laugh. Lord Sasori. A voice called his name. Sasori turned. Very few people in the Shinobi sect knew his name. Besides the higher-ups, only those who trained in his techniques or underwent surgery did. A young Shinobi sect ninja jogged up, waving a prosthetic limb. Out for a stroll with Lord Nagato? That's rare. He insisted I accompany him to walk off lunch, Sasori replied. The young ninja beamed. Lord Sasori, you don't come into Six Path City very often, right? If you get hungry tonight, check the west side. Lots of snack stalls. There's a tempura place that's amazing, and the ramen on Commercial Street, you can't miss it. He rattled off recommendations with unmasked enthusiasm. I understand. Sasori, unused to such exuberance, cut him off politely. Nagato smiled and led him onward. Are everyone in the Land of Rain that enthusiastic? Sasori asked later. Why so much food talk right after lunch? That's Sosuke, Nagato said. When he's not on missions, he likes to try different restaurants and stalls. He's very into it. Sasori nodded slowly. He's enthusiastic toward you because you're Sasori and you saved his ninja career, Nagato added seriously. For a ninja, losing an arm or leg could mean the end of their vocation. Prosthetic limbs meant a livelihood could continue. Sasori fell silent. He had many reasons for learning puppet ninjutsu, avenging his parents, curiosity, boredom, but he had never thought of using it to save people. He had learned puppet ninjutsu as a combat art. So thank you, Sasori, Nagato said with a sigh. It would be a tragedy if a technique honed for over a decade were abandoned because of an accident. Even the best medical shinobi can't regrow severed limbs. But with your prosthetics, as long as the head is intact, losing other parts isn't necessarily the end. This is just a small green leaf on the tree of eternal art, Sasori said, shaking his head. Prosthetic limbs were a byproduct of human puppet technology and not the most technically sophisticated part. The core lay in the chakra core, a technique that could grant a form of immortality. It's still meaningful to the Shinobi sect, to the Land of Rain, and to the ninja world, Nagato insisted. He might not understand puppet ninjutsu fully, but he understood the lives it changed. Sasori didn't argue. He was merely being praised. They walked on. When they passed the takoyaki stall Sosuke had recommended, Sasori bought a portion out of curiosity and tried one. Not as good as he said, he judged. Eating is just for nutrients, Sasori added. The human body is such an inconvenient thing. Maybe your taste hasn't found the right thing yet, Nagato countered, more seriously than the subject deserved. The joy of tasting Mu Yue's ramen for the first time was something he'd never forget. Enjoying good food is a simple kind of happiness. The place I grew up was far more prosperous than the Land of Rain. I've eaten famous dishes from all over the ninja world and felt nothing, Sasori replied stubbornly. That's because they weren't the right dishes. If you tasted a true delicacy, Sasori, you wouldn't feel that way. How arrogant. What food can rival eternal life? Sasori scoffed. Nagato opened his mouth but refrained. He trusted Mu Yue's cooking, but he wouldn't make promises lightly. Mu Yue was not only the Shinobi sect leader, but had recently become Konoha's Hokage. He had many duties, and Nagato wouldn't trouble him with culinary propaganda. They didn't notice a pedestrian buying snacks, cast a quick, surprised look their way, and then smooth his expression. Moving with the disciple of the ninja master and showing such a close relationship with him, it suggested Sasori had truly joined the Shinobi sect. The man finished his food inconspicuously and sent a brief report back to Hidden Sand Village. The interaction between Sasori and Nagato didn't look like that of mere colleagues, but of close companions. For outside observers, the Shinobi sect's greatest assets were obvious. The prodigious Suke, who after Hiruzen Sarutobi seemed likely to become one of the strongest in the ninja world, and Nagato, both Sosuke's disciple and a genius in his own right. Their companionship was a powerful sign of the sect's strength. Chapter 699, Random S plus Skill. Ebizo found Chiyo as soon as he received the new intelligence and told her what his spy had reported. It can be confirmed now. Sasori is in Six Paths City. My people saw him walking with Nagato of the Shinobi sect inside the city, he said. Judging by his behavior, it's highly likely Sasori has joined the Shinobi sect. As head of intelligence, Ebizo was meticulous about his wording. Since the informant hadn't explicitly said Sasori had formally enrolled, Ebizo avoided definitive language. Still, if even he said it was highly probable, that was close enough to certainty. Chiyo exhaled a long, weary sigh and frowned. She understood Ebizo's caution. Sasori joining a rival ninja organization would be worrying in any case, but the fact that he'd apparently allied himself with the Shinobi sect made it dangerous. Unless the Shinobi sect was prepared to stop expanding and stay within its current borders, conflict with Sunagakure was inevitable. A stronger Shinobi sect would threaten Sunagakure's interests. The village could not simply stand aside. That was the kind of irreconcilable dispute that had sparked the Shinobi World War in the past. Would the Shinobi sect halt its growth now? Chiyo thought not. The Shinobi sect already surpassed the old Rain village in strength and audacity. Why would it stop because of a possible challenge? Chiyo loved her grandson. If it came down to sacrificing herself to save Sasori, she would do it without hesitation. But she could not betray the village she had helped build. Born at the end of the Sengoku period, Chiyo had seen Senju Hashirama found Konoha when she was 5 and had lived through the era of the ninja villages forming. Sunagakure's history was, in many ways, her history. She had helped transform the barren desert into one of the 5 great shinobi villages and become a legendary puppet master in the process. She could not turn her back on her home. It's not hopeless yet, Ebizo said. I'll have my people contact Sasori and try to persuade him to quit the Shinobi sect. If Sunagakure's own shinobi killed Sasori, Ebizo feared Chiyo would never recover. She had suffered loss before, but that had always come at the hands of enemy shinobi. This would be different. No, Chiyo replied, shaking her head. I'll go to the Shinobi sect myself. She wanted to speak to Sasori face to face, even if the trip was dangerous. Ebizo looked alarmed. It's too risky. You know Hiruzen Sarutobi isn't that person's match. Chiyo was powerful, but not so much that she could confidently best Hiruzen. Given the strength the Shinobi sect had already shown, her safe return would depend entirely on Sosuke's intentions. If he decided to act, Chiyo would likely be killed. The conflict hasn't broken out yet, Chiyo said firmly. This is the best time to go. Seeing he could not dissuade her, Ebizo offered a compromise. Then take the 4th Hokage with you. Have him contact the Shinobi sect and go officially as a Sunagakure envoy, whether for talks of cooperation or other matters. Presenting herself as a formal village representative would make Sosuke more cautious. After all, Sunagakure was one of the 5 great shinobi villages. The Shinobi sect was still an up-and-coming challenger. Land of Fire, Konoha. At the Uchiha clan estate, a large number of clan members were gathering near Nanga Shrine. Today marked the 30th day of the Uchiha's external assignments for entrusted missions. To showcase the results and promote reforms of the police force, Shisui had requested that Fugaku hold a clan meeting so those on external assignment could report their achievements and share experiences. Yahweh, aren't you finding it strange to be away from the police force? One Uchiha asked, Uchiha Yahweh. He hadn't seen Yahweh much over the past month, since Yahweh had either been bonding with teammates or out on missions. Those first few days were odd, Yahweh replied with a smile. But I got used to it. It's tiring, but more challenging, and I earn more. How much did you make this month? The other asked, curious. Not a huge sum, 400,000 Ryo, Yahweh said. I spent a lot of time getting to know my teammates, so I probably spent less than 2/3 of the month actually on missions. 400,000 in under 20 days? The man was surprised. His monthly salary was only 200,000 Ryo. For Yahweh, who'd left the police force earning just 170,000 Ryo, that was a big jump. Although he was a jonin with a 2 Tomoe Sharingan, He was still young and comparatively inexperienced, so his official salary had been lower than older jonin. Similar conversations spread through the crowd. Those who remained in the police force were curious about how their clanmates were faring outside it, while those who'd left weren't going to miss a chance to boast about income, numbers of commissions, and mission ranks. Listening to them made those still in the police force uneasy. The police force paid less, had more restrictions, and offered less freedom. The work was monotonous and couldn't fully use their talents. Although the police force's duties overlapped with those of Anbu, Anbu held the real authority. The police force dealt mostly with minor matters. As the clan meeting began, one Uchiha Jonin raised his hand eagerly. Clan head, when will the second batch of transferred personnel be selected? Seeing his friends gain the Hokage's recognition and earn good money, he wanted in. Clan head, why not hold a martial arts tournament? Let strength decide the spots, another suggested. Many felt the first list of names wasn't entirely fair and wanted to prove their worth. Shisui watched the enthusiasm and nodded inwardly. If they proceeded carefully, many of the police force's problems could be solved. In the past, so many Uchiha joined the police force simply because only Uchiha could occupy those roles, and the clan was expected to fill them. A pride in serving the police force had developed. Now that the police force was no longer exclusive, that flow should slow. Don't be impatient, Fugaku replied. Selection will consider overall suitability, not only physical strength. Konoha needed capable shinobi for missions, but Mu Yue needed Shisui to complete his life mission more than anything. After addressing the questions, Fugaku announced the official start of the meeting. One by one, the Uchiha Jonin reported their month's achievements. Within 30 days, I led my squad to complete 2 A-rank missions and 5 B-rank missions, earning a total commission of. I led my team to finish 3 A-rank missions. I followed my team and completed 6 B-rank missions and 1 A-rank mission. Those who had completed many missions stood tall and proud. Those with fewer assignments didn't look defeated, they simply promised to work harder. In every respect, the conditions were better than they had been in the police force. I think the clan should pay attention to the rumors about Uchiha in Konoha, Uchiha Inaho said, sharing his experience. They make it harder for us to join teams. Those outsiders are detestable, slandering the Uchiha, someone complained. Why should we explain ourselves? Let them misunderstand, another said coldly. Shisui knew the struggle to erase prejudice would be long. Some of the rumors had been self-inflicted and fed by a few clan members' attitudes. That won't solve anything, Inaho countered. We need communication. Good team relationships improve mission performance. He thought if he had kept to himself, the friction might have led to him being replaced as captain. He believed the fault lay with the rumor spreaders, not his teammates. Inaho is right, Shisui said in support. Coordinating well with a team is a kind of ability. It shows leadership. Uchiha Yue and others who'd had similar experiences also voiced their support. The elders nodded as well. Maybe not everyone fully agreed with Shisui, but momentum was shifting. After the meeting, Shisui handed out a new questionnaire to see how many clan members' opinions had changed because of his efforts. The results would influence the selection of the second batch of transferred personnel. System notice. Disciple Uchiha Shisui's strength increased. Progress toward police force reform advanced, reducing friction between the Uchiha and Konoha. Rewards received. Chakra 3000, random skill extraction scroll fragment, S+. Mastery level 2. Yin release chakra comprehension boost. As Shisui worked, Mu Yue's system displayed the settlement rewards for reaching 60% progress. 4 fragments, Mu Yue observed. 3 fragments were needed to synthesize a complete random skill extraction scroll, so after combining 1 draw, there would still be 1 fragment remaining. 706. Exchange Meeting, Chapter 701, Arrival. After Mu Yue had told him the details, Obito wasted no time and went straight to Rin Nohara's house. Did something good happen, Obito? You look really excited, Rin said with a smile. It wasn't that she always tried to guess his thoughts. Obito was just easy to read. His expression usually gave everything away. I heard about a publicly funded trip, Obito said with a chuckle, then told her about the exchange meeting. An exchange to the land of water. Sounds great. Rin considered it for a moment. The Land of Water was an island nation far from the mainland, full of sights the Land of Fire didn't have. No wonder Obito was hyped. You should come too, Obito. Chances like this don't come often, he urged. Me? Rin looked thoughtful. She wouldn't go abroad just for scenery, but Obito's invitation made it tempting. She hadn't had much to do lately. Obito pushed the point. When the time comes, we'll call Kakashi and Guy and give those hidden mist nin a good scare, so they won't dare pick a fight with Konoha again. He reminded Rin that although Hidden Mist and Konoha were allies now, they had been at war only months earlier. Obito's interest in the exchange wasn't just sightseeing. He wanted to dent the Hidden Mist ninja's confidence. We're allies now. Don't go overboard, Rin cautioned. Don't worry. I have the Sharingan. Everything will be under control. Obito said with a confident smile. With the Sharingan's observation powers, he could make an enemy feel intense pain without killing them, though he had no intention of being that cruel at an exchange meeting. Hidden Mist had done their part in the last battle. They deserved some credit. Obito's amazing. I'll cheer you on, Rin said, clenching her fist. Obito scratched his head and beamed. He'd have liked it if she'd come too. Are you going to tell the others now? I'll come with you, Rin offered. They went together to Kakashi's and Guy's houses, then to Shisui's. Kakashi accepted immediately. Going to Hidden Mist for an exchange? Sure, he said. Hidden Mist was known for skilled swordsmen, and sparring them might help his training. An exchange with another village? How youthful! I'll participate, Might Guy declared, giving a thumbs up and one of his trademark brilliant smiles. His taijutsu had improved recently. He wanted worthy opponents. Since Shisui lived close to Obito, Rin went home and Obito went on alone. Shisui refused. He'd just been promoted from squad leader to team leader and had new responsibilities after Mu Yue became Hokage. Mu Yue had stepped down as captain of the training squad, Orochimaru had taken over, and some members had been promoted. Sorry, I can't this time. I'm busy, Shisui said. That's a shame, Obito said without pressing. If Shisui had important duties, Obito wouldn't want him to go either. The Land of Water could wait. The departure day arrived quickly. Check carefully. Don't forget anything. We're about to leave, Kurenai Yuhi, captain of the exchange team, reminded everyone. The Land of Water is far. If you leave your tools behind, it won't be easy to get them back. One by one, the nin checked their gear. Shuriken and kunai, got them. Izumo Kamizuki nodded. Swords packed, Kotetsu Hagane said. I brought my dango, Anko announced. As expected of my subordinates, well prepared, Obito praised. There were more chuunin than jonin on the team. Obito had asked around and brought along Anko and the others. In a sense, you being their captain is surprisingly fitting, Kakashi commented quietly. He'd thought the team would be chaotic. The combined Obito content of the three could overwhelm any jonin leader. Now that Obito was the leader, there was no contest. Of course. You guys agree, right? Obito asked smugly. Absolutely, Kotetsu said with a thumbs up like Guy. Obito took his captain duties seriously. If he didn't know their natures, he'd find someone to help them learn. Captain Obito is the best captain besides teacher Mu Yue, Anko added, remembering Obito's promise to make her head of the dango department. Depart. Kurenai's command cut off their banter. The exchange team set off for the eastern port and their ship to the Land of Water. Though ninja could walk on water, crossing the sea on foot required tremendous chakra and stamina, so even ninjas used ships. Wow, I can't see the end of it. The legendary Great Sea, Anko exclaimed from the deck. It was her first time at sea. If you head north long enough, you can see icebergs, Obito said, pretending to be worldly. Icebergs? You went that far? Were you on a special mission? Izumo asked. Obito grinned. Not that special. Just protected a princess, ran into a coup, helped put down the rebellion, saved the country, became a hero. That's not normal. That's straight out of a ninja novel, Kotetsu retorted. Is the princess cute? Izumo and Kotetsu immediately switched to the important question. Novels are novels. In my experience, princesses aren't necessarily beauties, Obito said with a regretful look. That little brat Fukakazahana had spoiled all his princess fantasies. Watching the two still clinging to romantic notions, he something things were inherited, apparently. That's better left unpassed down, Kakashi muttered. The daimyo even called us ice and snow warriors, Only teacher Mu Yue is the ice and snow hero, Obito added. The hero was an adjective, not an official title, he clarified. He had contributed a lot, so the praise wasn't exaggerated. After more small talk, Obito returned to his cabin, not to sleep, but to practice the Flying Thunder God technique. With Mu Yue's pointers, he felt he was only a step away from mastery. If he could learn it before the exchange, he'd have some flashy moves to show. Long voyages were dull. The excitement of the open sea faded after a few days, and some began to miss Konoha's forests, where every turn brought new scenery. From a ship, the horizon seemed endless and unchanging. Land! Kotetsu shouted when the land of water appeared faint on the horizon. He regretted not bringing a ninja novel. Sitting around on the ship had been boring. Everyone, pack up. We're almost there, Kurenai said, looking over the group. Hidden Mist Ninja will receive us at the dock. The Konoha team straightened themselves. The Hidden Mist had sent lookouts and spotted the ship early. When the Konoha vessel docked, Hidden Mist reception already waited below. Captain Kurenai, welcome to the land of water. I believe this exchange will promote friendship between our villages and mutual benefit, a Hidden Mist Jonin beside Yagura Karatachi said with a smile. I hope both our villages gain from this, Kurenai replied. While she conversed with the Hidden Mist, the Konoha nin looked the place over. That green-haired guy looks tough. Is he one of the Hidden Mist fighters for this exchange? Anko asked. Obito followed her gaze and saw Yagura Karatachi standing proudly. Anko facing Yagura? Obito's mouth twitched. He was beginning to understand why Kakashi had always looked at him like that. This was how the clueless appeared to others. Normally, no, Obito said. Yagura's position in Hidden Mist was probably higher than the Sannin in Konoha. Hidden Mist had only one Yagura. Still, if the Mangekyo Sharingan had no side effects, Obito thought, an unfettered Kamui would make him confident to take on Yagura. The reception went smoothly enough. Beneath the polite words and smiles, both sides were already measuring the others, eager to see what the exchange would bring. 707. Arrival. After Mu Yue explained the exchange meeting in detail, Obito set off straight for Rin Nohara's house. Something good happened, Obito? You look excited, Rin said with a smile. It wasn't that she was trying to pry. Obito was just that easy to read. One look at his face and she could tell what was on his mind. I heard about a publicly funded trip, Obito replied with a chuckle, and told her about the exchange going to the land of water. Going to the land of water does sound nice. Rin thought for a moment. The land of water was an island nation far from the mainland. It would have sights the land of fire didn't. No wonder Obito was thrilled. Yeah, Rin, you should come too. Opportunities like this don't come often, he offered. Me? Rin hesitated. She wouldn't normally travel just to see a view, but she hadn't been busy lately, and if Obito was coming, it sounded worth it. Then we'll call Kakashi and Guy and give the Hidden Mist 9. Obito's grin widened. A proper beating, so they won't dare start trouble with Konoha again. Rin raised an eyebrow. We're allies now. We can't be too harsh. Don't worry, I've got the Sharingan. I'll keep everything under control. Obito smiled confidently. With the Sharingan's observational powers, he could make opponents writhe with pain without actually killing them. Of course, he wouldn't be that extreme at a formal exchange. Hidden Mist had done a lot in the last battle. They'd paid their dues. Obito is amazing. I'll cheer you on, Rin said, clenching a fist in encouragement. Obito scratched the back of his head and smiled. He'd have preferred it if the support were only hers, but he wasn't complaining. I'm going to tell the others now. Come with me? Rin nodded and they headed out together to Kakashi's, Might Guy's, and Shisui's houses. Going to the Hidden Mist for an exchange? Sure, Kakashi agreed. Hidden Mist had many sword-using shinobi. Kakashi liked the idea of sparring with them. How youthful! I'm in! Might Guy shouted, giving a thumbs up. His taijutsu had improved recently and he wanted a challenge. Shisui's place was in the Uchiha compound, near Obito's. Obito let Rin go home and walked over to inform Shisui alone. Shisui declined politely. He'd just been promoted from squad leader to captain and was busy. That's a shame, Obito said, but he didn't press. If Shisui had work, there would be other exchanges later. Soon the day to depart arrived. Check you haven't forgotten anything. We're leaving soon, Shinku Yuhi, captain of the exchange team, reminded them. The land of water is far. If you forget your ninja tools, it'll be hard to come back for them. They checked their gear one by one. Shuriken and kunai, check, Izumo Kamizuki said. I've brought my ninja blade, Kotetsu Hagane added. I brought my dango, Anko announced. As expected of my subordinates, well prepared, Obito praised. There were more chuunin slots on the exchange team than jonin, and Obito had taken Anko and the others along after asking them. Kakashi glanced at Obito with an unreadable expression. At first, I thought this team would be a mess, Kakashi said quietly later. The three of them together contain more Obito energy than, well, a full Obito. That'd be tough for any jonin to handle. It's actually fitting that Obito's the captain. Of course you approve, right? Obito asked proudly. Absolutely, Kotetsu echoed, giving a thumbs-up worthy of Metkai. Obito took his responsibilities seriously. Even if he didn't know everyone's ninjutsu nature, he'd find someone to teach them. Captain Obito's the best captain besides teacher Mu Yue. Anko supported him too. Obito had once promised her the post of Dango minister. Depart, Shinku called, and the chatter died down. Under Shinku's leadership, the exchange team headed to the eastern port to catch a ship to the land of water. Ninjas can walk on water, but crossing the sea by that method would demand far more chakra and stamina than most had, so ships were the sensible choice. Wow, you can't see the end of it. It really is the Great Sea, Anko marveled from the deck. It was her first time on a ship, and the view of boundless blue was stunning. If you sail further north, you might even see icebergs, Obito said, lounging like a seasoned traveler. Icebergs? So you've been way out there? Izumo asked. Oh, it's nothing special, Obito said, unable to keep the smile off his face. Just a mission to protect a princess, a coup to stop, calming a rebellion, saving the country, basically the whole heroic sweep. I became the nation's ice and snow hero. Isn't that a bit novel-like? Kotetsu snorted. That's straight out of a ninja book. Was the princess pretty? Izumo and Kotetsu demanded in unison. Well, not necessarily. Obito's expression soured at the memory of Fuka Kazehana, that brat, who had shattered his princess fantasies. Kakashi tossed a throwaway remark about not passing on that legacy, and Obito glared at him as if Kakashi could read minds. After a while, Obito retreated to his cabin, not to sleep, but to work on the Flying Thunder God technique. Mu Yue had given him pointers, and Obito felt he was close to mastering it. If he could nail the Flying Thunder God before the exchange, he'd have some very flashy moves to show. Long stretches at sea grew dull. The novelty of open water wore off, and people started missing the forests back home. Without changing scenery, the days blurred. Land, Kotetsu shouted after an endless number of monotonous days. The faint silhouette of the land of water appeared ahead. He suddenly regretted not bringing a ninja novel. Sitting on deck was painfully boring. Everyone, pack up. We're almost there, Shinku ordered, scanning the team. Hidden Mist would be ready on the dock to receive them. They tidied their appearances. Hidden Mist had cruise watch arranged and had spotted the Konoha ship early. When the ship moored, Hidden Mist's reception party was already waiting below. Captain Shinku, welcome to the land of water. I believe this exchange will strengthen the friendship between our two villages and bring mutual benefit, a Miss Jonin standing by Yagura Karatachi said with a polite smile. Let's hope both villages gain from this, Shinku replied. While Shinku conversed with the Mist representatives, the Konoha exchange team took in their surroundings. That green-haired guy looks tough. Is he the hidden Mist ninja we'll be matched against? Anko asked, eyeing Yagura Karatachi, who stood with an imposing presence. Obito followed her gaze and couldn't help a twitch of amusement. Anko imagining herself facing Yagura. Really? He suddenly understood why Kakashi sometimes looked at him the way he did. Normally, no, Obito said calmly. Yagura's status in the Hidden Mist was enormous. He was their Yagura, unique in rank and power. Still, if the Manjikyo Sharingan's ability had no side effects, if Kamui could be used freely, Obito thought he might be unstoppable. An unrestricted Kamui would make him invincible. 708. Challenge the strong. After a brief exchange, the Hidden Mist ninja quickly escorted the Konoha delegation into the Hidden Mist village. Obito glanced around with curiosity. He had visited other shinobi villages before, but never a major one. The Hidden Mist lay deep among mountains, encircled by high peaks and complicated terrain, deliberately isolated, it seemed. The people here must rarely leave the village, Obito murmured to himself. Even for a shinobi, leaving meant an exhausting journey. Ordinary folks would find it worse. And beyond the terrain, a shinobi village was a military base. Residents likely stayed inside by necessity. Since they'd arrived after dark, the village felt far less bustling than Konoha. Must be the mountains. Mu Yue sensei always said that poor transport stunts economic development, Obito thought. As a caravan leader, he wouldn't want to do business here. The travel alone would be a nightmare. We won't keep you, the Hidden Mist ninja said after guiding the Konoha team to the reception area. Considering their long trip, the exchange meeting was scheduled for 2 days later to allow rest. Get a good night's sleep and don't wander around the village, Captain Shinku Yuhi instructed as he distributed rooms. Hidden Mist wouldn't resort to underhanded tactics. Attacking Konoha now would be political suicide. But there might be lone hotheads whose families had fallen to Konoha in recent battles. It had been only months earlier that Hidden Mist sent troops against Konoha. Personal hatred could still be dangerous. Better to be cautious. The Konoha team agreed. Most of them wanted nothing more than to sleep. Rooms were assigned 2 chuunin to a room, 1 jonin per room, and no mixed gender sharing unless married. Since it wasn't yet bedtime, Obito invited Kakashi, Rin, and Anko into his room to talk. It's too early to sleep. Let's chat, he suggested. Kotetsu Hagane, who looked exhausted, brightened. Captain Obito, tell us about your missions. Obito thought for a moment. They'd done many missions over the years. What kind of mission do you want to hear about? Something amazing, like a ninja novel, Kotetsu said eagerly. Obito smiled. The Lulan mission was the most incredible one he'd been on. Future shinobi traveling back to the present. But time travel sounded absurd to explain. Instead, he settled on a safer tale. Kakashi has a habit of jinxing our missions. Whenever he confidently says there won't be any surprises, things go sideways. Kakashi opened it to protest, but it was true for a while back then. He believed things would go smoothly, and his certainty seemed to invite disaster. When you're on a mission, never say there won't be any surprises. Say you might run into the Raikage, and things could get really dangerous. Obito said it seriously. You ran into the Raikage because of one sentence? Izumo Kamizuki scoffed. That sounded like an adult's trick to scare kids into staying home. Not the Raikage himself, Obito corrected, but we did bump into the 3rd Raikage's son, the Raikage candidate, and some Kumo Jonin and Chuunin. We were on a C-rank mission at the time. Izumo's eyes widened. A Raikage candidate and multiple Jonin on a C-rank mission? That was asking for trouble. I wasn't even a genin then, just an intern, Obito added. Izumo's face tightened. An intern, his mind pictured meal tasks, not dangerous missions. Compared to Obito, he felt like a background character in a novel. It was dangerous. Thankfully Mu Yue sensei was there, Metkai said. Facing a Raikage candidate would have meant instant death for them otherwise. At the time, Mu Yue wasn't as strong as he is now, but he still held off the AB combo and most of the Cloud Ninja, Obito said. Only 1 chuunin and 1 jonin managed to get around him and reach us. Kakashi grew uneasy. There was a full-fledged chuunin on our team who insisted on covering our retreat alone, leaving me and Guy, the interns, to run. Obito continued. When the fight began, that chuunin went down in 2 or 3 moves. Then, just as the enemy was about to be finished, he suddenly jumped up and rushed to kill them, talking about being a genius. Kakashi was mortified. He leapt forward and clamped a hand over Obito's mouth. It had been an impulsive moment back then, and thinking about it now made him cringe. So who was that chuunin? Anko prodded. Who indeed? Izumo replied vaguely, eyes on the ceiling. If Captain Obito doesn't tell us, we'll never know. Kotetsu shrugged, but Kakashi's obvious discomfort steered them away from the topic. They moved on to lighter things, whether Anko Dango were sold in the Land of Water, Hidden Mist's famous scenic spots, and the more serious matter, Hidden Mist's top shinobi. If no new prodigies sprang up, the strongest in Hidden Mist should be Mei Terumi or Kisame Hoshigaki, right? Obito asked. Mei's powerful water release had cost him during the 2nd stage of the chuunin exams. It left an impression. Later, Obito had bested her in the 3rd stage, and then at the youth martial arts tournament, their levels had diverged. Kisame Hoshigaki? Metkai rubbed his chin confidently. I remember a Kisame Hoshigaki from Hidden Mist. Obito stared. Of all people, Metkai, who usually struggled with names, was correcting him. Anyway, I'm not interested in their young jonin. If I'm going to fight, I want the strong jonin, Obito declared. Fighting jonin, like Mei now, would be bullying. He wanted to face Hidden Mist's renowned elites and show those old veterans what a Konoha genius could do. Talk it over with Captain Shinku before doing anything. Don't pull some stunt at the exchange, Kakashi warned. The exchange meeting's rules meant interaction among ninjas of similar age and rank. Fights between chuunin and jonin, or a 13-year-old jonin and a 30-year-old jonin, weren't allowed. If Obito sprang a challenge on his own, Hidden Mist would see it as provocation, and Konoha would be diplomatically embarrassed. If Obito aimed to be Hokage someday, he couldn't afford scandals like that. I know. I'll report it tomorrow, Obito said. If Shinku disagreed, he wouldn't force it. He'd treat the trip as sightseeing. It wasn't a huge deal. This is youth. I want to challenge a powerful Hidden Mist shinobi too, Metkai shouted, giving Obito a thumbs up. He'd come for the same reason, to test himself against strong opponents. Kotetsu and Izumo looked on with envy. This was the ninja life they dreamed of, rescuing princesses, thwarting conspiracies, becoming national heroes. To be stronger than your peers, never worried about being outmatched, only about whether the enemy was too weak. Izumo reconsidered, though. Obito's kind of unexpected danger could easily be lethal. If not for Mu Yue and their own abilities, they'd all be dead. The next morning, after breakfast, Obito, Metkai, and Kakashi went to speak with Captain Shinku. Kakashi, though quiet the night before, had come to sharpen his sword technique and, given a chance, wanted to face tougher opponents too. I'll contact Hidden Mist and see what they think, Shinku said, not committing right away. He wanted to showcase Konoha talent at the exchange, but this touched on inter-village diplomacy. Konoha was strong now, but needlessly picking fights with another major village wasn't wise. Even with overwhelming strength, you don't throw away long-term allies for short-term pride. Shinku didn't have the authority to make that choice alone. After the third Mizukage of Hidden Mist received the message, he called Gengetsu Hozuki and Yagura Karatachi to ask for their opinions. 709. Cut it off with one sword. What do you think about Konoha's request? The third Mizukage asked Yagura and Genshi. I say we refuse, Yagura replied. Konoha doesn't have good intentions, and those kids aren't simple. If the Hidden Mist could win, sending a few elite jonin to guide Konoha's ninja would be no problem. The issue was that Hidden Mist might not win. He had been on the battlefield last time and knew something of Obito and their strength. I think we should agree, Genshi countered. His opinion was the opposite of Yagura's, not because he was confident Hidden Mist would prevail. He hadn't been on the battlefield either, but he'd read the intelligence reports. The gap between us and Konoha is significant now. Since we've already started learning from them, why not use this exchange to raise the morale of our 9? Letting them see the difference for themselves might be better for growth. After the Third Shinobi World War, the third Mizukage had already moved to end the Bloody Mist policy. Why had the Hidden Mist adopted such a harsh system? To forge stronger shinobi by brutalizing them from the academy onward. The facts, however, were clear. It hadn't worked. The village's fighters were nowhere near Konoha's level. With the village's training policy changing under Konoha's influence, Genshi felt it wouldn't hurt to take a little humiliation for the sake of improvement. Elder Genshi makes a good point, the third Mizukage said, nodding. He left the matter in Genshi's hands, and soon only Yagura and the Mizukage remained in the office. Yagura, you need to change your impetuous nature, the third Mizukage sighed. Yagura's pride made him fixate on face above all else. Was face important among the 5 great shinobi villages? Yes. But a handful of jonin losing a match, how much face would that cost? It was not as if the Mizukage himself was defeated. As a former prodigy and a famous strong figure, Yagura had reason to be proud, but as a Mizukage, he had to be more level-headed. Third Mizukage, I understand, Yagura replied frankly. If anyone else had admonished him, he would have bristled, but the third Mizukage was grooming him as an heir and had long been lenient. He knew this advice was for his good. The exchange meeting began. The first 3 days were for chuunin. individual and team matches, along with theoretical exchanges about ninjutsu application and combat experience on the third day. In the individual bouts, Anko performed well, defeating many hidden-miss chuunin older than her. Her team also did well, as did the team with Gecko Hayate, which decisively beat a hidden-miss team. There were hidden-miss teams that pulled off victories over Konoha, but overall, Konoha had more outstanding shinobi. Even a stern ninja like Shinku Yuhi couldn't hide her smile at her village's performance. The hidden mist fighters were not furious, but their faces made it clear they were uncomfortable. The gap among the young chuunin meant hidden mist did not just lag this generation, but the next as well. On the fourth day came the jonin-level exchanges, no team battles, only individual challenges. Any jonin could pick an opponent. Mei Terumi, Hozuki Mangetsu, and Kisame Hoshigaki all took part. Kakashi Hatake, I've trained hard for you. Don't disappoint me, Hozuki Mangetsu declared, challenging Kakashi with his Hiramakare. During the last youth martial arts tournament, Kakashi had beaten him quickly and decisively, and the prodigy was unwilling to accept the loss. Determined to win this time, Mangetsu had intensified his training, sparring with elders and trying every method to get stronger. After the 5 Kaj returned the swords to Konoha, Mangetsu, with his talent, had become the youngest member of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist. Hearing someone challenge Kakashi pulled many hidden mist ninjas' attention toward him. A few years ago, Kakashi had earned the nickname Lightning Fang on the hidden mist battlefield. Anyone with battlefield experience had some respect for him. Mangetsu, though, remained confident he had prepared for this moment. Challenging the highest difficulty, typical, Mei observed without surprise, then turned to evaluate the other Konoha jonin. She had no plans to take on Kakashi, Obito, or Metkai. Better to avoid a loss if she wanted to make a bid for Mizukage. If you haven't given up by then, I can fight you, Kakashi said. Mangetsu froze. What do you mean? Literally, you won't be my first opponent, Kakashi replied nonchalantly. Furious, Mangetsu glared. He needed to know who could make Kakashi decline his challenge. Kid, unfortunately his opponent is me, Biwa Juzo said as he walked up, carrying his Kubikirabocho. Mangetsu frowned. Biwa's name hadn't been on the exchange list. They were both members of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist, but Biwa was not a newly promoted prodigy. He'd been one of the original members, a veteran jonin who'd gained fame long before the last war. It felt odd for someone of his standing to be in an exchange meeting. Kakashi, however, was here to sharpen his swordsmanship. To him, a member of the 7 swordsmen was a perfect opponent. Then I'll go first, Kakashi said, and stepped forward. Obito and Metkai both nodded. They weren't eager to take Biwa on. Biwa eyed them, secretly relieved it wasn't Metkai. He hadn't forgotten the devastating impression the boy's 6th gate eruption and chakra mode left at the last battlefield. Metgai's taijutsu had torn through defenses and even damaged Biwa's Kubikirabocho. If he had to lose, he'd prefer it be to Yagura rather than to an eruption of pure taijutsu. Kakashi's gaze flicked to the great blade. Kubikirabocho was as imposing as its name suggested. Its blade was larger than Kakashi himself. He judged that his own katana, the White Fang, would be enough. He gripped its hilt with his right hand. Begin, called the referee. Both men erupted with chakra and blurred from their starting positions. Their blades met with a metallic crash, sparks flying. Biwa pressed the advantage of his heavy blade, trying to overwhelm Kakashi. Kakashi, expressionless, focused on his breathing, infusing his body with lightning-release chakra to amplify his strength. The small young jonin unleashed a sudden burst of power that forced Biwa back half a step. Seizing the chance, Kakashi swung hard. As an experienced jonin, Biwa reacted fast, bringing Kubikirabocho up to meet the strike. The blades rang, and an obvious notch appeared on Kubikirabocho where the White Fang had landed. Biwa knew he couldn't be dragged into Kakashi's rhythm. He channeled chakra and strength into the sword, swinging with enormous force. Each sweep moved the air itself. Against Kakashi's agility, however, those wide arcs became easy to avoid. To those unfamiliar with his style, Biwa seemed to be slashing wildly, but that was a feint. He switched tactics, wielding the massive blade with surprising flexibility and aiming for vital spots. Kakashi was troublesome. He caught the subtleties of every shift and met Kubikirabocho's strikes with rapid, precise parries. His katana's flexibility let him maximize defense with minimal movement. Biwa felt his power finding nowhere to go, frustrated and impotent. Good swordsmanship, but if this is all... Kakashi's focus tightened. He concentrated his breathing to the extreme and gripped the white fang. Thunderclap flash! Godspeed! Lightning crackled around Kakashi as he unleashed lightning-released chakra. A dazzling yellow aura vitalized his body and sharpened his reflexes. With everything concentrated and distributed perfectly, Kakashi exploded forward like a bolt. Observers saw him flash, leaving a scorched mark where he had been. Biwa's eyelids twitched. With his battle experience, he made one instant judgment: he could not dodge. He raised Kubikirabocho to block. There was a yellow streak, and then a thin line engraved itself across the great blade. With a thunderous crack, Kubikirabocho split in two. One broken half clattered to the ground, throwing up dust. Kakashi sheathed the white fang without even looking, returning it to the scabbard on his back. So fast! Biwa's pupils widened in shock. In the moment the great sword broke, his mind flashed back to old training memories. If Kakashi hadn't controlled the slash's direction, he would already be dead. Mangetsu's face went pale. It wasn't just trauma, he realized bleakly that he might still fail to match that slash. He's White Fang's son, all right. Worse than his father, the third Mizukage murmured, eyes flickering. Those who could read battle would see that Kakashi had only really gotten serious at the end. Before that, he had fought with pure swordsmanship restraint. If he'd wanted to, he could have killed Biwa in 30 seconds. That was no longer just genius. Kakashi was a true, strong individual. The hidden mist jonin around them showed stunned, astonished expressions. They knew of Kakashi's reputation, but many still remembered that a few years ago he had needed great sacrifice and help to defeat a member of the Seven Swordsmen. Now he could so easily break one's legendary blade. As expected of Kakashi, Rin Nohara smiled, eyes bright. Always showing off, Obito muttered, turning away and sheathing his sword. So what if he'd mastered something like Kamui? If it couldn't dodge a strike like that, it didn't matter. The referee's voice cut through the silence. Kakashi Hatake wins. Chapter 704, Kamui plus Flying Thunder God. After Kakashi's match ended, Obito stepped forward. From the hidden mist side, Kuriare Kushimaru detached himself from the crowd and walked toward the arena. Obito watched him approach and shook his head. He had hoped for a stronger opponent. Even a member of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist like Kushimaru felt a little beneath him now. Kushimaru noticed Obito's expression but kept his composure. Times had changed. Not only might he not be able to defeat Obito, but the hidden mist behind him could no longer be measured against Konoha standing behind Obito. Yagura Karatachi watched the field and muttered to himself, "Don't lose as badly as Biwa Juzo." He didn't expect Kushimaru to win, only that he wouldn't let the hidden mist lose too much face. "Obito, you can do it," Rin Nohara called, clenching her right fist. Feeling her gaze, Obito straightened instinctively. Power surged through him. He didn't just want to win, he wanted to win more spectacularly than Kakashi. There were other duels across the exchange meeting, but most eyes were on Obito versus Kushimaru. Both were far from ordinary ninjas in their villages. "Begin," the referee called once both were ready. Kushimaru's legs burst with chakra, and he lunged, gripped sword in hand. His blade looked more like an oversized needle. Thrusting attacks were its specialty. Obito activated his Sharingan. The world slowed for him, and the thin needle in Kushimaru's hand stood out clearly. Clang! Obito drew a kunai casually from his pouch and held it horizontally to block the first thrust. Kushimaru showed no change in expression. He withdrew and struck again, stabbing 16 times in a flash, aiming for eyes, heart, neck. An ordinary ninja would have been riddled with holes and dead. But against Obito, who wielded the Mangekyo Sharingan and the physical enhancements of his breathing technique, every strike was visible before it came. Blocking was simply a matter of, "I saw it, then I blocked it." When Kushimaru's frantic attacks proved useless, he backed off and spat, "Fire release, great fireball technique." Obito responded smoothly with, "Water release, great waterfall technique." A massive water ball shot from Kushimaru's mouth. It smothered the fire and then surged forward in a great wave. Obito focused his breathing technique to reinforce his body, channeling chakra to enhance his strength. The Great Waterfall was more a setup than a finisher. Danger lay in any follow-up water jutsu. But Kushimaru made no further water jutsu. Instead, he drew shuriken and flung them at Obito. Obito dodged them with ease. Time's almost up. Time to finish this, Obito thought. He shifted his breathing rhythm and poured his chakra into the flame-breathing chakra mode, burning a great deal of energy. His physical attributes and fire-release nature transformations surged. He could have ended the match instantly, but he wanted a spectacular finish. Letting an opponent show off made the victory look better. Obito seized the initiative, slinging a kunai and charging. Kushimaru braced, gripping his needle. As Obito closed in, Kushimaru's left hand moved. Longsword ninja art, earth spider stitch. Steel wires buried in the ground flashed up. Kushimaru had buried them after retreating earlier, and while he had blocked the fireball, waiting for Obito to rush in, the wires could have maimed Obito's legs. At the same time, Kushimaru lunged, needle poised for a killing thrust. Obito did nothing but toss his kunai aside. The wire sliced through where his ankle should have been. No blood. It slid through him like through smoke. The needle did the same, piercing empty air. Huh? Kushimaru frowned. His thrust hit nothing. He tried to pull his hand back, but Obito's body had already vanished. Rasengan, Obito shouted. Where Kushimaru couldn't see, Obito had reappeared behind him, chakra coalescing into a spinning sphere, and drove it into Kushimaru's back. The Rasengan detonated. Kushimaru's pupils constricted. He crumpled to the ground. Obito stood, at his side, his back turned to the Konoha contingent. Flying Thunder God Technique, someone from Konoha breathed. Before the Third Shinobi World War, the Flying Thunder God Technique hadn't been widely known in Konoha, but Minato Namikaze had used it famously during that war, and Mu Yue had also demonstrated it in battles against strong enemies. With those two figures later becoming Hokage and a Fire Shadow assistant, and given their reputations, the Flying Thunder God technique had become extremely well recognized. Now almost every Konoha ninja knew the name. Obito has actually mastered the Flying Thunder God technique. Only 3 ninjas have learned this jutsu so far, right? One whispered. That's right. Before this, only the 2nd Hokage, the 4th Hokage, and Minato learned it, another answered. They stared at Obito in surprise. Every master of the Flying Thunder God technique had been extraordinary. Obito's mastery of it, on top of the Mangekyo Sharingan, elevated him even further. Kakashi, imagine this as an opponent, someone murmured. Kamui combined with Flying Thunder God created a dangerous space-time ninja. No matter how you analyzed it, beating Obito would be difficult, even with mistakes to exploit. The combination granted him an enormous margin for error. The 3rd Mizukage frowned briefly, then relaxed. After all, the Hidden Mist and Konoha were now allies. Yagura Karatachi forgave Kushimaru's crushing defeat. There was little blame to place against Obito's strength. Uchiha Obito wins, the referee announced. Obito turned and walked back to Rin and Kakashi, smiling uncontrollably. He had practiced a cool move he'd learned from studying the 2 great Flying Thunder Godmasters, Minato and Mu Yue. Part of the reason he'd practiced secretly on the ship had been for this very moment. Obito, you're amazing! You already learned the Flying Thunder God technique, Rin praised. It wasn't so hard. Mu Yue-sensei taught well, Obito said modestly on the surface, laughing inside. Genius Kakashi? He, Obito, was the strongest genius. Guy's match is about to start, Kakashi said. Rin looked toward the ring. Who's Guy's opponent? I don't recognize him. If I remember correctly, his name is Takekawa Boryoku, an elite from the Hidden Mist, Kakashi replied. Obito shot him a look, a little annoyed he hadn't had more time to savor the moment, but Might Guy's match was about to begin, and he watched. Begin. 8 gates. Gate of opening. Open. Gate of limit. Open. When the battle began, Might Guy opened the 5th gate. Terrifying chakra erupted from him. He pushed his breathing technique to the extreme, entering rock-breathing chakra mode. His whole body seemed to swell with power, and his aura surged. Takekawa Boryoku's steps halted under that overwhelming presence, costing him any opening to act. Morning Eagle, Guy roared. He lunged, chakra making him seem like a hunting eagle. Hidden Mist Shinobi who glanced at him felt their hair rise, as if somehow targeted by a terrifying predator. In a blink, Guy, with the 5th gate open in rock-breathing chakra mode, appeared in front of Takekawa. The Mist Ninja could only raise his arm to block. Bang! The force from Guy's palm was horrific. Takawa passed out and flew out like a cannonball, crashing hard. Silence fell. Aside from other distant fights, the exchange ground was still. The hidden mist onlookers stared at the green-clad figure. Though Kushimaru and Biwajuzo had been routed, they had at least traded blows. Takawa Boryoku had been finished almost as soon as the match began, never landing a strike. Is that all there is? Guy wondered, shaking his head. Morning Eagle was a new taijutsu he'd developed, a gentler substitute for Golden Skyline, less harmful to his fingers, but also less destructive. He hadn't even opened the sixth gate or used Golden Skyline or Noon Tiger, and yet his opponent couldn't take a single hit. The opposition was simply too weak to help refine his techniques. Guy felt disappointed. He had expected someone closer to Kitsuch, eyes level. Kisame Hoshigaki said with a solemn voice, faster and stronger. He'd lost to Guy 3 times. Despite training, the gap had widened. Is the hidden mist so far behind Konoha? Our village's elites being defeated by Konoha's youngsters like this? A mist ninja thought grimly. Takekawa and the swordsmen were experienced elites, yet against Konoha's rising stars like Guy and Obito, they looked like genin facing jonin. The terrifying strength of Konoha's next generation was undeniable. Calling them mere geniuses felt inadequate. They were future powerhouses of the shinobi world. They're even more brilliant than the Sannin at the same age, Shinku Yuhi sighed inwardly. The legendary Sannin had shaken the world in their time, but Kakashi and the others already outshone them as youths. Konoha's camp was full of laughter and pride. With Obito, Metkai, and the rest, Konoha's next generation, even if different from Mu Yue's, was not lacking. At that moment, Mei Terumi stepped forward and challenged a jonin slightly older than her. Using her 2 Kekkei Genkai deftly, she defeated him in short order. Her match wasn't as dramatic as Guy's or Obito's, but for the current hidden mist, it was a rare comfort. The village still produced talent. Mangetsu Hozuki nodded in satisfaction. Mei's win showed she had not slacked off, and that her timing and judgment were sound, not reckless. After that, with the exception of Kakashi accepting Mangetsu Hozuki's challenge, neither Obito nor Metkai fought again. No one dared challenge them, and they didn't seek out matches themselves. The Jonin exchange lasted 3 days. Afterward, the Konoha exchange team didn't return immediately. There were several minor events that would take a few days, but Obito and the others didn't take part in them. After discussing plans with their captain and the Hidden Mist, Obito and his teammates toured the Hidden Mist village and visited many famous scenic spots in the Land of Water. Seeing the sights of a foreign land was one of Obito's reasons for coming. He photographed the unique landscapes and was reluctant to leave. A few days were too short to tour a large country. They hadn't even seen all the major attractions. News of the exchange spread quickly, since neither Konoha nor the Hidden Mist had secrets to withhold. The performance of Konoha's young ninjas and the exchange itself drew attention from the other major villages. Soon, Iwagakure and Sunagakure arranged their own exchange meetings, not in their home villages, but in the Shinobi sect's Six-Path City. From Sunagakure, Chiyo would lead the team. From Iwagakure, Kitsuchi would head their delegation. 711. Reject Six-Path City, Land of Rain. The Shinobi sect is getting stronger and stronger. Iwagakure and Sunagakure are even holding their exchange meeting here in Six-Path City. Is this them showing support for the Shinobi sect? But didn't Iwagakure and Sunagakure sign a peace treaty with Konoha just a few months ago? Are we headed for war again? No one really knows. When have the 5 great Shinobi villages ever truly stayed quiet? After Iwagakure and Sunagakure announced their visit and sent ninja to Six-Path City, rumors buzzed through the streets. Many assumed the 2 villages were backing the Shinobi sect, thinking they intended to align with it against Konoha and the Hidden Mist. At first glance, the Shinobi sect didn't seem impressive beyond its powerful leader. But dig deeper, and its influence was clearer. There was the legacy of Hanzo, the Rain Village's growing cooperation with the Shinobi sect, and a newly established branch in Bird Country. The Shinobi sect might be able to marshal more fighters than some of the smaller but fierce villages like the Grass. And the leader's reputation, he had even defeated Hiruzen Sarutobi, made people wary. Speculation abounded, but in truth neither the Shinobi sect nor Iwa and Suna intended a full partnership. Mu Yue's plan was simple. Unless all 5 great shinobi villages agreed to peaceful coexistence, the shinobi sect would remain neutral. Iwagakure and Tsunagakure had more complicated motives. They staged the exchange meeting in Six Path City to attract attention, but secretly they had dispatched ninja to the Land of Lightning. Their real alliance was a 3-way arrangement between Iwagakure, Tsunagakure, and Kumogakure, not the shinobi sect. Compared to a sect that would compete for resources, they preferred Kumogakure as an ally. Old grudges had to be put aside. Even in the Third Shinobi World War, the strongest villages sought alliances. To avoid provoking Konoha, Iwa and Suna arranged the public show in Six Path City, while the real maneuvering happened elsewhere. They did stage a convincing display. Both villages sent many talented ninja, and high-profile leaders headed their delegations. When Chiyo arrived, she handed her duties to a subordinate. She had come to see Sasori, not to work. On her first day at the shinobi sect, she had casually asked a sect ninja about Sasori, and was surprised the ninja didn't know him. With Sasori's skill, how could he be unknown? Chiyo shrugged it off. Sasori was technically a rogue from Tsunagakure and might be keeping a low profile. Using her status, she requested a meeting through higher-ups. The shinobi sect, after confirming Sasori's willingness, set a time. On the day of the meeting, Chiyo wore the casual clothes she'd often chosen back when Sasori was still in Tsunagakure. She smoothed her appearance, then went to the sect reception room. This meeting mattered. If it went wrong, she could lose her last bloodline. For a moment, she even considered knocking Sasori out and taking him away, but she abandoned the thought. She knew Sasori well enough to know that would only make things worse. Unless she imprisoned him forever, force wouldn't fix anything. When she entered the reception room, she felt a jolt of unreality. Sasori's red hair and face hadn't changed much. He was still the grandson she remembered, but he seemed different. The usually distant youth was chatting like an old friend with someone Chiyo didn't recognize. "Sasori, did you learn your puppet jutsu from your grandmother?" the stranger asked. "Yes. What, are you going to say, oh, you're the grandson of a legendary puppeteer. No wonder your puppet jutsu is so amazing." Sasori answered, "No, but your grandmother is very famous. Even someone like me who doesn't understand puppetry has heard of her." "Reputation won't save you when you have an enemy," Sasori replied coolly. At that, the light in Chiyo's eyes dimmed. Sasori's tone told her the conversation wouldn't go the way she hoped. "Sasori, how have you been? Is there anything in the land of rain that's troubling you?" she asked, masking her worry with a practiced smile. "All right, I guess. Nothing I can't handle," Sasori said, turning to look at her. With his strength, he would have noticed Chiyo's arrival. His earlier lines were meant for her ears. He was not surprised she had tracked him down. He hadn't been hiding his identity at the shinobi sect or in Six Path City, and of course there was the matter of his puppet prosthetics. Still, Chiyo showing up deserved thought. Maybe she wanted him to return to Tsunagakure, but he couldn't go back. Sasori didn't blame Chiyo for his parents' deaths. That had little to do with her. It was the third Kazekage's doing. Sasori had killed the third Kazekage and turned him into a human puppet. Tsunagakure didn't know that yet. If they did, Sasori wouldn't just decline to return, he'd become Tsunagakure's most wanted criminal. If the truth were revealed, Chiyo would be implicated because of him. Returning wasn't an option. "Could you step outside for a moment? I have some private matters to discuss with Sasori," Chiyo said to Nagato. Outright poaching him would be improper even for his grandmother. Nagato nodded and left. 20 seconds after he departed, Chiyo formed hand signs, condensed chakra, and set up a small, simple barrier. Facing Sasori, she spoke plainly. "Sasori, come back to Tsunagakure with me. Staying with the shinobi sect will be dangerous. Even if you don't want to return to Tsunagakure, that's fine. Just don't stay with the shinobi sect. It's walking toward an abyss." Chiyo believed the sect was a grave risk. Becoming the sixth great power wouldn't be a matter of facing a single village, but the combined might of the surrounding great villages. The Second Shinobi World War had shown how difficult that climb would be. Chiyo feared that once the shinobi sect reached a tipping point, Konoha, Tsunagakure, and Iwagakure would act together. "Is there any village that's completely safe?" Sasori replied. The life of a shinobi was always on the edge, he argued. This is different, Chiyo insisted. A war between major powers wasn't the same as mission danger. Maybe it's the same, Sasori said quietly, and staying with the shinobi sect feels more meaningful to me. The shinobi sect's aim is world peace, not domination, he went on. They aren't trying to be the strongest, they want a peaceful ninja world. Many groups claim that, Chiyo said, but the shinobi sect is actually doing it, Sasori answered seriously. Under the sect's guidance, the Land of Rain had become calmer. Internal security was better than in the Land of Wind. Sasori listed the improvements the sect had made since its founding. Of course, they're governing their own country, Chiyo retorted. She didn't believe in many true pacifists. If pacifism were widespread, the ninja world wouldn't be in constant turmoil. They're doing the same things in Bird Country, Sasori said. That's just expanding their influence, Chiyo shot back. The sect's actions in Bird Country were exactly what made Sunagakure nervous. If allowed to replicate those changes across many small lands, the sect's power would swell rapidly. You won't convince me to return to Sunagakure, and I can't make you see the sect's uniqueness, Sasori concluded calmly. As an observer inside the shinobi sect, he understood its inner workings better than most. Even ordinary sect members might not grasp it as clearly. Chiyo had expected some hidden reason for Sasori's involvement. Instead, he simply recognized the sect's value. Can we talk again in a few days? She pleaded. She felt today had been fruitless. I don't think that's necessary. Please, just for me, an old, lonely woman. I might not have time. Sasori's last answer eased Chiyo a little. She said goodbye and left. 20 seconds later, Nagato returned to the reception room. How did it go? He asked with concern. Chiyo's face didn't look like someone who'd had a pleasant reunion. What do you expect? If a relative is being co-opted by a certain power, would you be Papai? Sasori said. Under Mu Yue's conditions, your sentence is nearly finished, Nagato said after a moment. Mu Yue's bargain had been that if Sasori could help the sect perfect puppet prosthetic techniques, he would receive a 5-year reduction in his sentence. Nagato had authority to shave off up to 4 years. Nagato was satisfied with Sasori's work and had already used the maximum reduction he could grant. Sasori only needed to successfully teach a shinobi sect ninja the puppet prosthetic method, and his sentence would be over. Do you think teaching those idiots puppet jutsu is easy? Sasori grumbled, then rose and walked toward the laboratory alone. Nagato watched him go, bewildered. He didn't understand what he'd done to offend Sasori. Land of Lightning, Western Port Town. While the world's attention focused on Six Path City, Iwagakure and Sunagakure had sent envoys to the Land of Lightning. To avoid exposure, they avoided meeting within any great village and chose instead the Western Port. The shinobi sect has wolfish ambitions, and Konoha and the Hidden Mist have grand designs. I fear a new major war could break out very soon, Yakushimaru said first, watching the Iwagakure and Kumogakure representatives closely, especially the latter. The Land of Lightning didn't border the Land of Wind, Earth, or Rain. Even if the Rain Village became a major power, its immediate effect on Kumogakure would be less than on Iwagakure and Sunagakure. More pressingly, Konoha could grow dominant. Kumogakure could not ignore that. As Yakushimaru expected, the Kumogakure representative's expression soured. At a time like this, the 3 great villages must cooperate and not let Konoha succeed, Dodai said. Kumogakure recognized the shinobi sect's potential, but believed it unlikely to be realized. If Konoha gained full backing from the Hidden Mist, the balance could tip unpredictably. Recently, our Tsuchikage personally took a risk to acquire a very important piece of intelligence, Reshi announced, and the room fell silent. Both Yakushimaru and Dodai leaned forward. If the Tsuchikage himself had risked such effort, the intelligence had to be significant. Sosuke is actually underestimated, Reshi revealed. Yakushimaru and Dodai exchanged puzzled looks. Some already regarded Sosuke as the strongest shinobi in the world. How could he still be underestimated? Sosuke's strength goes far beyond that of a Kage, Reshi said gravely. If I had to describe it, I'd call it another ninja god. Ninja god, Dodai exclaimed. Defeating Hiruzen Sarutobi and being called a ninja god were not the same. A few might think the third Raikage could rival Hiruzen, but no one would claim Raikage-level strength equaled a ninja god. Even Mu Yue had only been said to have the potential of a ninja god, not to actually be one. Yakushimaru's face showed equal parts shock and relief. Tsunagakure had been debating how to handle the Shinobi sect. If a war broke out, Tsunagakure could crush the sect, but under the full retaliation of someone like Sosuke, they would hesitate. This was the kind of force that could change everything. As for why Iwagakure would risk fabricating such intelligence, Yakushimaru couldn't find a plausible motive to trick Tsunagakure and Kumogakure into fighting the Shinobi sect. Tsunagakure already had reasons to oppose the sect, and if the intelligence were false, Iwa and Tsuna could have quietly removed the sect on their own without dragging Kumogakure in. The information stood for now, and its implications spread like a chill through the room. 712, Sosuke Assassination Team. If that's the case, the Shinobi sect is actually more troublesome than we thought, Yakushimaru said. He finally understood why Iwagakure had behaved so oddly before, willing to pay but refusing to commit troops. It looked like Iwagakure might already have intelligence on the Shinobi sect and wanted them eliminated, but feared Sosuke's retaliation, hence the strange half-measures. That's right, Reshi agreed. If we're going to move against the Shinobi sect, we must find a way to kill Sosuke first. Otherwise, it'll be endless trouble. For Iwagakure, the destruction of the Shinobi sect was urgent. The stronger Sosuke was, the more imperative it became to eliminate that threat before it could grow. Right now, Sosuke was the sect's core. If they missed this chance and the sect continued to develop, it might become another Konoha, perhaps even a Konoha with a Senju Hashirama. That thought was intolerable to Iwagakure, which bordered the land of Earth. The problem is how to kill Sosuke, Dodai said after thinking for a moment. And how much reliable intelligence does Iwagakure actually have on him? A ninja's battle began long before the fight itself. Adequate intelligence changed everything. Without it, going after Sosuke would be suicidal. With it, and with the right elite ninjas from several major villages and careful preparation, Dodai thought they might have a real chance. The exact odds depended on how thorough and what kind of intelligence they had. Reshi produced 2 identical scrolls and handed them to Dodai and Yakushimaru. This is all the intelligence Iwagakure currently has on Sosuke, he said. Regarding the 5 natures, confirmed reports show Sosuke is extremely proficient in fire release, enough to overpower Hanzo's water release. His wind release is also strong. He once used a powerful wind technique during a public lecture. He's suspected of being skilled in water, lightning, and earth releases as well. He hasn't publicly used those often, but when he did in lectures, his level was unmatched. Reshi hesitated, then added, Sosuke possesses a highly unusual secret ninjutsu, whose principle is currently unknown. Its effect is to generate a shield around his entire body, defensive enough to take a full-power dust release from the 3rd Tsuchikage without a scratch. Reshi had tried not to mention Onoki too much, out of respect for his village's Tsuchikage, but accuracy demanded it. Onoki's dust release was famed as one of the most destructive in the ninja world. Comparing Sosuke's defense to it made the point. Blocked the 3rd Tsuchikage's dust release without a scratch? Dodai stared at Reshi in disbelief. The 3rd Raikage's lightning release chakra mode was known for its incredible defense, and the idea that someone could shrug off Onoki's dust release as if nothing had happened sounded impossible. Dust release was a keke tota that decomposed matter. Most people dodged it. Yakushimaru's face registered the same shock. Everyone knew how formidable the 3rd Tsuchikage's dust release was. To stop it cleanly defied common sense. Sosuke is also proficient in Taijutsu, Reshi went on. His Taijutsu is very strong. During Onoki's confrontation with Sosuke, the only wound Onoki took came from trading a direct punch with him. Dodai frowned as he read the scroll and listened. A defensive jutsu that could stop dust release, combined with powerful ninjutsu and taijutsu. How were they supposed to counter that? Yakushimaru tried to imagine Sosuke as the Sand Village's enemy and worked through what it would take to defeat him. Our high command believes we must form a multi-village Sosuke assassination team, Reshi said finally, specifically to study Sosuke and ultimately kill him. Iwagakure's leadership had debated this for a long time. There had always been another voice, one arguing to ally with the Shinobi sect against Konoha, but the sect's lack of positive response to such overtures convinced Iwagakure that the sect would not join against Konoha. That voice for alliance had added, leaving only the option of elimination. "This is too important for me to decide alone," Dodai answered. "I'll have to report to the Raikage." He didn't voice outright agreement. His rank didn't allow it, but inwardly he leaned towards sanctioning the plan. Kumogakure had mostly ignored the Shinobi sect. The distance and the belief that the sect would take years to become a major power had been comforting. But if Sosuke truly possessed the strength of a ninja god, that calculus changed. Even with few current members, if Sosuke revealed himself and relaxed recruitment requirements, many shinobi and clans would join. That potential was frightening. Yakushimaru's response matched Dodai's. The meeting adjourned temporarily. Land of Fire, Konoha. When Hiruzen Sarutobi heard that Tsunagakure and Iwagakure were holding an exchange meeting in Six Path City, he went straight to the Hokage office. An exchange between Suna and Iwa alone was one thing, but if the Shinobi sect was involved, it warranted attention. The third Hokage knew Sosuke's capabilities well enough to be concerned. In his urgency, Hiruzen opened the door without knocking. Inside, Minato Namikaze was already there. Hiruzen nodded to Minato, then turned to Mu Yue and said seriously, "Mu Yue, there's unusual activity linked to the Shinobi sect. The exchange meeting between Iwagakure and Tsunagakure in Six Path City?" Mu Yue asked, and Hiruzen nodded. "Minato and I were just discussing this, but I don't think the Shinobi sect is actively involved. More likely, they're just renting the venue." Hiruzen admitted that the earlier exchange with the Hidden Mist had been a mistake. It had sent the wrong message to other villages, making it look like Konoha sought alliances to crush rivals. Konoha's leadership wanted only to develop and grow stronger, not to provoke other lands unnecessarily. Tsunagakure and Iwagakure naturally have conflicts with the Shinobi sect, Minato said after a moment. Both the Land of Earth and the Land of Wind border the Land of Rain. Whether or not the Shinobi sect has hostile intent, Iwa and Suna probably don't want to see it grow. The Land of Fire also borders Rain, Hiruzen sighed, and we're still the strongest. He didn't believe Iwa and Suna would truly cooperate with the Shinobi sect long-term, but the current situation made an alliance a possibility. "That is a possibility. I'll dispatch more ninja to investigate," Mu Yue replied. As leader of the Shinobi sect, he already knew more than Hiruzen could imagine. For now, though, Hiruzen did not know Mu Yue's full identity. Presenting clear evidence later would settle things. Hiruzen relaxed a little at Mu Yue's sensible response. He appreciated Mu Yue's willingness to listen, unlike Danzo. A few days later, after Mu Yue had his ninjas gather intelligence, he had Anbu summon Hiruzen to the Hokage office. "Third Hokage, here is the intelligence on the exchange meeting between Tsunagakure and Iwagakure," Mu Yue said as Hiruzen entered, handing him the reports. The rental fees, the Shinobi sect's movements during the event. Reading them, Hiruzen realized he might have had the wrong impression. Iwa and Suna had paid the Shinobi sect a huge fee to rent the venue. If Konoha had been offered the same, Hiruzen admitted he might have been tempted. The money was hard to refuse. The office grew awkward for a moment. Mu Yue broke the tension by producing another intelligence file. "Our operatives also discovered something useful in the Shinobi sect. I believe we could cooperate with them on this." "Puppet prosthetics that function like normal limbs?" Hiruzen's eyes lit up. In large villages like Konoha, shinobi lost limbs each year, and often lost their ability to serve. If the Shinobi sect truly had durable prosthetic limbs, Konoha could restore many experienced veterans to service overnight. "It's worth exploring," Hiruzen agreed. As long as the sect's price wasn't obscene, it was acceptable. Such technology could be like buying several years of development. He felt a twinge of guilt. He had once pressured the Shinobi sect, pushed by a desire to avenge Danzo, and had even challenged Sosuke to a duel. That had almost been a major mistake. Now, wary because of Sosuke's strength, he had made another wrong judgment. The earlier pressure could have damaged relations. The sect might try to extort Konoha or simply refuse to help. Maybe I am getting old, Hiruzen thought. He was weaker than Sosuke and Mu Yue and prone to misjudgments now. It pinched his pride. He wasn't the invincible third Hokage who could guarantee security and orderly development from the front lines anymore. Fourth Hokage, I'll leave this matter to you. If we have to pay a price, so be it, Hiruzen said, turning toward the door with a momentary loneliness on his face. Perhaps it was time to step back. Third Hokage, there's a meeting tomorrow about the Ninja Academy reforms and key appointments afterward, Mu Yue added. The school reforms were on track, buildings completed, textbooks compiled, and internal promotion finished. The official opening was set for April. I'll attend, Hiruzen said with a smile, turning back to Mu Yue. Guiding the next generation might be his best contribution now. Not long after Hiruzen left, Shisui knocked and entered. Teacher Mu Yue, these are the Uchiha clan's current opinions on the police force, and the reference list for the third batch of Uchiha police secondments, he reported, setting the documents on the desk. The Uchiha still nominally left the police force temporarily. To sever the connection for good, Mu Yue needed to remove that qualifier and ensure most Uchiha were genuinely transferred. To avoid a backlash from the sensitive clan, Mu Yue had Shisui regularly collect opinions to find the right timing. About 35% of Uchiha still see the police force as indispensable, Shisui said. Among the rest, not everyone wants the clan to leave. Many are indifferent. Then the time isn't right yet. We need to do more, Mu Yue replied, scanning the papers. He wasn't surprised. The Uchiha had served in the police for decades. Change would take time. For the third batch, use these, Mu Yue said, circling names. Except for the first batch, he hadn't selected many for the second and third. Things too easily won were seldom cherished. Also, your clan's cultural reform must be implemented soon to prevent problems in educating the new generation. Shisui's life mission was to resolve the rift between the Uchiha and Konoha and fully integrate the clan into the village. If the Uchiha didn't shift their mindset, seeing themselves first as Konoha shinobi, not only as Uchiha, Shisui's mission would fail. Mu Yue's guidance matched that goal. The Sharingan could push the clan to extremes. A steady, positive worldview might help. Life mission, Uchiha. Main objective, eliminate the conflict between the Uchiha and Konoha and integrate the Uchiha into Konoha. Mission progress, 68.6%. Being a team leader isn't actually difficult. If you can read your teammates' thoughts, leading the team becomes easy. Obito generously shared his secret of leadership with an Uchiha ninja who was transferring in from the police force. I see. No wonder you're always praised at the clan meetings, Obito. So there are techniques to leading a team, the young Uchiha exclaimed. Shisui often held up high-performing Uchiha as examples at clan meetings to encourage others to cultivate good relations within their squads. As one of the clan's current prodigies with excellent results as a team leader, Obito was featured more often than anyone else. Thanks, the Uchiha said, then turned to Uchiha Teshio. Boss, get me 2 pancakes too. Put Obito's on my tab. He started fishing for money out of his wallet. No, I'll get it, Obito waved a hand. He rather liked teaching others. The Uchiha nodded, put the extra money back, and left with his pancake. Obito bit into his own and headed toward the training ground. From a distance, Obito spotted his 3 teammates. They're early today, he thought. Mu Yue rarely made his disciples wait. He liked to be 5 minutes ahead, and Obito, Mu Yue's strongest disciple, had inherited that habit. Izumo and Kotetsu were even earlier than him. They must have gotten there quite a bit ahead of schedule. He felt pleased. As expected of my teammates. He planned to teach them the body flicker technique today. Team leader Obito, good morning. Anko was the first to notice him, greeting him with a mischievous grin. Izumo and Kotetsu followed suit. Good morning, Obito answered with a wide smile. Being called Team Leader Obito every morning never failed to brighten his day. He worried he might miss it if he ever stopped being a team leader. Team Leader Obito, you like Senior Rin, don't you? Anko blurted out. Obito stumbled, nearly losing his footing. He straightened, glancing at Anko with a baffled expression. He hadn't told anyone. How had she guessed? Izumo and Kotetsu looked at Anko, speechless. Why did she just blurt it out? Their recent trip to the Hidden Mist Exchange had made it obvious to Izumo and Kotetsu that Obito had feelings for Rin Nohara. To repay Obito for his responsible guidance, they decided to help him pursue Rin. Anko had overheard their plan and ended up roped in. Cough! Cough! Obito coughed, his face flushing faintly. First, define what you mean by like. Actually, liking is common. For example, I like all of you very much. I even want you to become my shadow guards in the future. He tried to lighten the mood. Thanks for the sentiment, team leader Obito, but your liking for Senior Rin isn't that kind of liking. It's romantic. Izumo cut in before Obito could deflect. No, it's not what you think, Obito stammered. So it's not that way? It's a misunderstanding. We'll have to tell Senior Rin next time, Kotetsu said with mock deliberation. It's not that I don't like her. Obito panicked. He couldn't let this spread. What if Rin actually heard that he didn't like her? Then is it liking or not? Anko asked. It's not a simple like or dislike. It's more of a good impression, Obito tried to explain. You're too young to understand. It's thinking someone is really great and occasionally thinking about them. Isn't that liking? Kotetsu shot back. And you're only a few years older than us. Maybe it's a little liking. Obito rubbed his forehead, sighed, and finally admitted the truth. It felt like a secret treasure exposed. Then let our emotional duo help you pursue the person you like, Kotetsu announced with mock ceremony. He grandly introduced Izumo. Izumo is a seasoned romance novel reader, hundreds of novels. He's proficient in dating theory, an absolute expert in love. That amazing? Obito blinked. Hundreds of romance novels was an impressive tally. Izumo adjusted a pair of black-framed glasses he hadn't been wearing earlier and modestly said, I wouldn't call myself an expert. I just know more of the theory than most people. And Kotetsu here has a childhood friend and plenty of real-world experience. He's a practical, effective operator, Izumo continued, pointing at Kotetsu with both hands. Childhood friend? Real-world experience? Sounds impressive, Obito said, surprised. He hadn't expected his teammates to be so far ahead in this area. What about me? Why is it only a duo? Anko jumped between them, clearly annoyed she hadn't been included. She'd been top of her class at the Ninja Academy and was the squad's strongest member. Then it's the emotional duo plus Anko, Izumo amended. Why isn't it the emotional trio? Anko demanded. Because you're special, Anko. You need to be listed separately, Izumo replied. Anko accepted that and calmed down. Obito thought to himself that they probably figured she wouldn't understand romantic things anyway. He didn't point it out. Anko as mascot was probably for the best. Enough digression. Training first. Seeing it was nearly time, Obito began leading them in practice. He'd watched Anko and Izumo's fights during the exchange and noticed several weaknesses. They trained hard until lunch. Afterward, pressed by Kotetsu and the others, they turned the morning's topic back to Obito's romantic dilemma. Team leader Obito, since you like Senior Rin, why don't you take action? Izumo asked, approaching the matter like a case study. To give advice, I need to know the situation. That's why I said it's just a little liking, just a good impression, Obito repeated. Kotetsu was incredulous. Obito's reaction to Rin's praise, the way he lit up, how could that be only a little liking? Izumo mentally labeled Obito as thin-skinned in romance, someone who turned bright pink at the smallest provocation. If Senior Rin could be your girlfriend, would you be happy? Izumo asked. Definitely, Obito blurted without thinking. When the three gave him a look that said, see, he quickly added, Rin's so great, anyone would feel the same. He couldn't say he wouldn't be happy. The idea alone made him lightheaded. Do you know Rin's likes and dislikes? Kotetsu asked. Rin likes planting flowers and drawing. She likes strawberries. She dislikes boiled seafood and hates war, and… Obito rattled off her preferences like they were catalogued in his head. Izumo regarded him with a new respect. Knowledge increases the probability of victory, he said, raising an invisible glass. Victory? Love is war. Izumo's tone turned solemn. It's a difficult war. Even if a confession succeeds, that's not total victory. The person who confesses first is in a more passive position afterward. They often have to put in more effort. From hundreds of romance novels, the person who confesses first frequently has to rack their brains afterward to keep the relationship. Breakups usually are initiated by the person who was confessed to. In one book I read, the protagonists liked each other in the first volume. To make the other confess first, they used every trick. 8 volumes later, and still no confession. Obito was stunned. The order of confession mattered that much? He thought about Mu Yue's words about sunk cost. Whoever invested first might care more and be more willing to compromise. It did make a strange kind of sense. But novels are just novels, Kotetsu said. If two people like each other, that should be enough. You don't have to build strategy like it's a war. It's fine if the confession works. It's just hard to make a girl confess first, Izumo admitted. So let's set the objective. Team leader Obito's successful confession. No, confessing is too early, Obito waved his hands. If it went wrong, how could he face Rin? It would be unbearably awkward. Aim high, but take practical steps, Kotetsu suggested with a grin. First go on dates to build goodwill, then confess when the time is right. Dates. Obito felt something warm in his chest. Maybe he should be more proactive. It was like learning a new jutsu. Practicing didn't guarantee success, but not practicing guaranteed failure. You should focus on time, reigning. That's your priority, Obito reminded them. Their age was for building foundation. Getting sidetracked by his romantic life could be a greater loss than any gain. We won't stop afternoon training, so you can scheme about my private affairs. We'll still train seriously, Izumo said, placing a hand on his chest. But we don't train every day. There's weekends. Kotetsu and Izumo genuinely wanted to help. They knew Obito was responsible. He joked around, but when it came to training, he was more professional than their actual Jonin team leader, Yoshio Ishizaka. He made sound training plans. Strength is the foundation, Obito said finally, smiling. Your diligence is my repayment. The squad I lead cannot be weak. When Friday's training ended and Obito dismissed them, Kotetsu, Anko, and Izumo didn't leave. They clustered around him. Team leader Obito, we've completed your first aid operation plan, Kotetsu declared. Look this over. If it's okay, we can act this weekend, Izumo said, handing Obito a scroll. Obito frowned. Why the ceremony? But when he unfurled it and read, he was surprised. The scroll began with practical details. Yamanaka Flower Shop would be holding a promotional event on Saturday. Yanazawa Flower Shop in the commercial district had the widest selection in Konoha. The location and schedule of the art museum were listed too. You can use the flower shop event as an excuse to ask Senior Rin out. Aim for a time near a mealtime, but with some browsing time beforehand. After looking at the flowers, naturally go eat together. After the meal, you should treat her. The scroll then outlined specific step-by-step tactics. How to arrange the meeting, how to transition to lunch, what to say and when, down to the smallest details. Obito looked touched and helpless. They'd spent the entire week on this, besides training. So, team leader Obito, can we proceed? Izumo asked, eyes bright. Obito scratched his head and smiled at his teammates' earnestness. He wasn't sure he was ready, but with them behind him, perhaps he could try. 714. Accidents always happen. In the evening, after dinner, Rin Nohara went for her usual stroll near her home. It wasn't really about keeping fit. It was a habit she'd had since childhood, a routine her parents had always kept after meals. If she didn't walk or stand for a while after eating, she felt oddly off. She saw a familiar figure ahead. Obito, good evening, she called with a smile. Rin, good evening, Obito answered, laughing. Before she could say more, he hurried on. What a coincidence. You're taking a post-dinner walk too, right? You too? Rin looked puzzled. The Uchiha compound was a fair distance from her place. His walk would have been long. Obito nodded, then pretended to remember something. Oh, the Yamanaka Flower Shop is having a promotion tomorrow. Want to go have a look? I'm free. We could go together. Of course, he hadn't just taken a long, aimless walk. He'd come specifically to run into her. Izumo Kamizuki, self-styled master of romance theory, had advised that a direct invitation made a girl instinctively wary. Better to stage a casual encounter and slip in the invitation at the right moment. Obito, didn't you eat at home? Rin asked, still puzzled. The flower shop wasn't near either of their houses. I had dinner with my teammates today, Obito quickly amended, aware his first answer sounded odd. That's nice, Rin said, thinking of how Miho and Minato Namikaze had taken them out after a mission. Unaware, she sighed at the pleasant memory while Obito inwardly congratulated himself for playing the guide role well. So, tomorrow? Obito asked, trying to keep his excitement down. A flower shop? Sure I can, Rin agreed with a smile. The corners of Obito's mouth twitched upward despite his efforts. Inside, he was practically cheering. Izumo, Kotetsu, and the rest were doing their job as his future shadow guards perfectly. Then see you tomorrow at 9:50, Obito said, sticking to the time the strategy scroll had suggested. 9:50? That seems a little late. 9 would be better, Rin replied, and Obito's grin faltered. Rin usually ate lunch at noon. If they went at 9, he'd have to find a way to stretch the morning into a plausible lead-up to lunch. He'd planned carefully to fill 2 hours and 10 minutes with small events, and now another 50 minutes threatened to throw the whole plan off. "Do you have something at 9? Rin asked, curious. "Nothing," he blurted. Immediately, he wanted to smack himself. Now there was absolutely no reason to keep 9:50. "You're right, let's do 9, he decided, forcing a smile. "Okay, see you tomorrow at 9, Rin answered and waved. "Goodbye, Rin." He watched her leave, still smiling as he headed toward the Uchiha clan. "Captain Obito, how are you still smiling? This is a big mistake," Kotetsu Hagane complained, genuinely exasperated. He, Izumo, and Anko had been shadowing Obito to prevent any accidents. Of course, something had already gone off script. Obito stuck too closely to the formula and subconsciously favored Rin, causing the plan to wobble. "How will we fill those extra 50 minutes? Kotetsu fretted aloud. If they couldn't convert them into part of the date, nearly half the plan would be wasted. "I'll take care of it," Anko said coolly. "For what? Try not to make things worse," Izumo grumbled. He and Kotetsu were romance veterans compared to Anko, who seemed bewildered by anything that involved feelings. Still, Izumo had a pragmatic edge. Plans rarely survived contact with reality intact, but they could improvise. He handed Obito a walkie-talkie. "We'll follow from the shadows and give you boosts when needed." Obito felt moved. He trusted his teammates, reliable second only to himself. The next morning, Obito chose his date clothes carefully. He couldn't wear combat gear. His grandmother teased him, as she always did. "Dressing so carefully, are you going to confess to Rin?" His face went scarlet. "Grandma, don't be ridiculous. We're just going out." "Aren't going out and a date the same thing?" she asked, with a mock-innocent smile. Obito said nothing and quickly finished dressing. He settled on a beige hoodie and black trousers, then reread the scroll and left early for the rendezvous, arriving 15 minutes ahead to allow for unforeseen problems. 5 minutes later, Rin appeared. "Good morning, Rin," he greeted cheerfully. "Good morning," she replied. "You're early. I expected you to come early, but this is sooner than I thought." He beamed. She'd come early too. That mattered. It meant she cared. "You look different today," Rin observed. He wasn't in his usual uniform, and his goggles were missing. "And how's that?" he asked, nervous. "When you're in your combat uniform, you seem more reliable," she mused. And Obito felt his heart drop a beat, until she added, "But you in casual clothes give off a relaxed kind of handsomeness. It's very nice." Relief flooded him. The hours he'd fussed over his outfit had paid off. Then it hit him properly. Rin had called him handsome. His grin spread uncontrollably. "Isn't he easy to manipulate?" Izumo muttered sharply, lowering his binoculars. The plan hadn't even started, and Obito looked ready to surrender. "You can hear them from that far?" Anko asked. "Kotetsu and I can read lips," Izumo said smugly. Between lip reading and Obito's obvious expressions, they had everything they needed. Anko punched Kotetsu lightly for his arrogance. He nearly toppled, and Izumo scolded Anko for breaking the act. Kotetsu was supposed to be an integral part of their staged accident. Their idea was simple: manufacture a team conflict. 2 teammates would be openly dissatisfied with a new member. Obito would step in to mediate, revealing his kindness and reliability to Rin. Kotetsu and Izumo bickered loudly, their acting impressively convincing. Anko, less practiced, kept wanting to punch them both for taking it so far. "What's going on? Let's go see," Rin said, curious as they reached the commotion. Obito quickened his pace and fell into the mediator role as planned. But just then, a voice cut through. "Kakashi?" Obito thought, horrified. Kakashi had wandered by, and hearing phrases like "leaving the team," drifted over to investigate. With his sensory skill and habit of reading situations, he'd already seen through the subtle camouflage of the 3 and recognized them as members of Obito's temporary squad. "This is bad," all 3 of them realized at once. "Why now? Of all people?" Obito cursed inwardly. He'd hoped everything would stay under control, but reality had its own sense of timing. Kakashi approached Anko and the others with a puzzled look. Rin, still watching, turned to Obito. "They're your teammates?" she asked. "We were just role-playing," Izumo blurted, quickly dispersing his transformation, thinking on his feet. It's one of those games that's been popular recently, where you act out characters from novels. Right, Kotetsu chimed in, quick to back him up. Rin nodded and then greeted Kakashi with a bright, good morning, while Obito's heart sank further. This meddlesome, white-haired brat had a knack for appearing at the worst possible moments. He inwardly pleaded, "Someone, please fix him." "Good morning," Kakashi said, then glanced at Obito. Obliging Rin's expectations, Obito managed a reluctant greeting. After the brief exchange, Kakashi offered no small talk. To Obito's surprise, he simply left. Anko and the others slipped away too. Rin didn't invite Kakashi to join them, much to Obito's relief. If Kakashi had come along, today's chance to get closer to Rin would have been spent dealing with him. "It's over just like that?" Obito asked, both surprised and pleased. "Rin." He almost asked why she hadn't called Kakashi, but the question died on his tongue. "What's wrong, Obito?" Rin tilted her head, curious. "I was going to ask you something, but I forgot it the moment I opened my mouth," Obito admitted, rubbing the back of his head. He worried that if he reminded her, she'd suddenly remember whatever it was. They had only just split from Kakashi. At a ninja's pace, they could have caught up in seconds. "Is it important?" I guess not." Obito decided it couldn't be that important. Worst case, they'd waste a day. They were only 13. He'd have plenty of time to get closer to her. "I'd hope so. I don't imagine even you could forget something important that quickly," Rin said with a smile. They walked and joked their way toward the Yamanaka flower shop. Near the street it sat on, a hawker's cry drifted over them. "Tempura! Freshly fried tempura!" "Rin, want some?" Obito asked. Rin followed his gaze to a tiny tempura stall. The middle-aged vendor, clearly trying to show off, picked up a prepared shrimp, dipped it in batter, then dropped it into the oil with a hiss that splashed a few drops onto his hand. His face twisted like someone who'd never cooked before. Rin thought, "This guy looks like an even worse cook than me." "How about we eat somewhere else after the flower shop?" she suggested. The stall looked sketchy. "Let's try it. I haven't had tempura in a while, and I'm a bit hungry," Obito said stubbornly. "Look at him. He seems like a novice. It might taste bad." "It only costs a little. Maybe it's one of those that look awful but actually taste great," Obito countered. Rin realized he had a point and stopped arguing. They walked up to the stall. "One serving of tempura, please," Obito said. The stall owner nodded solemnly, then brightened. "Congratulations, you're our 10,000th customer. You'll receive a free mysterious reward." Rin glanced at him suspiciously. 10,000 customers? She couldn't imagine this man had been running the stall that long. Obito, sounding half serious, half excited, asked, "Am I that lucky? What's the reward?" "Escape room for 2, the stall owner declared. "It's the newest game for training observation. If it weren't a milestone, I wouldn't spend the money." Rin squinted. "An escape room in Konoha?" Obito improvised. "Maybe it's new. The war ended, and things have picked up." The stall owner, who was little more than Kotetsu Hagane in disguise, moved back to his frying. Under Rin's worried stare, he even managed to burn a shrimp black. Now she was certain he was a complete novice. Her mind leapt to a darker possibility. Could he be a spy? Obito, an Uchiha prodigy, was the kind of person other villages might want to keep an eye on. "So, where is this escape room?" Rin asked, pretending curiosity while scanning for danger. She knew the area the man pointed to, a small grove not suited to a commercial game. Kotetsu, continuing the ruse, produced a small map and gave directions. Straight 500 meters, turn left 200 meters. They didn't have money for a real storefront, of course. If you were short on funds, you could rig something in a grove with ninja skills. He and Izumo had more than one surprise planned for Obito's day. Part of the setup was supposed to get them to the right place at the right time. "Obito, wait a moment. I think I saw a friend. I'm going to say hello," Rin said calmly. "Okay, go ahead," Obito replied without thinking. Rin left and returned a minute and a half later. "I saw Shizune. She was helping Lady Tsunade. Buy some things," she said offhand. Then she turned to the stall owner. 3 servings, please." Kotetsu was delighted. Even without tasting it, Rin had bought 3 portions. Confidence building. Obito was baffled. Rin had just told him not to buy from this place, then bought 3 servings herself. "Rin, are you that hungry?" he asked. "You said looks can be deceiving," she smiled as she handed over the money. Obito hesitated, then stayed silent. I'll take Rin to a better place for lunch, he added apologetically. Kotetsu took the money. I'll make them right away. He tried hard to fry them properly. Then a familiar voice called, Obito. Obito turned. An Uchiha Jonin from the police force he'd met before had arrived, followed by two other Uchiha. Obito started forward to greet them. Suddenly, Rin, standing in front of the stall, shouted, "He's the spy!" At her shout, the Rin in front of them dissolved into a puff of smoke. Another Rin flashed down from a nearby rooftop. The real Rin had slipped away to speak with the police force. The one who had been waiting was a shadow clone. "There's a spy?" Kotetsu blurted, stepping back in alarm. Without warning, the Uchiha policeman surged forward and attacked him. Kotetsu was stunned. Why were they rushing him? There was no one else around. Had his shoddy tempura made him look suspicious? He had thought he was doing well. After all, Rin bought 3 servings. Obito didn't understand at first either, but he reacted immediately to protect Kotetsu. "Obito, don't be fooled. He's an undercover agent," Rin shouted from where she'd met the policeman. Confusion reigned. Kotetsu dispelled his transformation, dropped the stall act, and bowed, apologizing profusely, promising never to set up random stalls again. He was convincing until Obito explained, smiling awkwardly and offering whatever assurances he could. Out of respect for Obito, the Uchiha policeman accepted the explanations, said a few curt words, and left. Kotetsu rushed over to Obito, apologized again, then slapped a conspiratorial wink at him. "Take the heat," he mouthed. Obito caught the hint and replied kindly, "It's fine. Young people like new experiences. Just don't go making false claims." Rin gave a small, amused sound at Obito's sudden grown-up tone. The enormous knot of worry in his chest eased. He thought, that was close. Rin's smile faded into mock sternness for a moment as she looked at Obito and Kotetsu. First a role-play, now a lucky draw. She knew something had been arranged. Obito blushed. Kotetsu looked half mortified, thinking he'd ruined their date. "Aren't we going to the flower shop?" Rin asked, voice calm. Obito looked up. She'd already moved on a few paces and was smiling at him, the familiar, heartwarming smile that made everything worth it. "Go on," she nudged. Obito clapped Kotetsu on the shoulder, murmured thanks, and jogged to catch up. "Rin, are you angry?" "Why would I be angry?" she asked, cheeks puffing slightly as if to mask her pleasure. Obito suddenly understood why he liked her. He called Anko and the others on his walkie-talkie to cancel the rest of the plan. If Rin didn't like him, no scheme could change that. The rest of the afternoon was simple and perfect. They finished at the flower shop, bought snacks, wandered through the park, and had lunch at a nearby restaurant. After lunch, he walked her home. At the street near her house, he blurted, "I'm sorry about today, Rin." "I told you I'm not angry," she replied, covering a small smile. "Actually, I was quite happy today." Obito stammered an apology again, flustered. Rin covered her mouth and choked out a soft laugh. Then she turned and walked inside, leaving Obito standing there, dazed and smiling. 716. Resurrection Ninjutsu, Land of Wind, Hidden Sand Village. The intelligence Yakushimaru had brought back caused a commotion among the Hidden Sand's senior officials. Not long ago, they had been openly discussing how to move against the Shinobi sect. Now everything had to be reconsidered. Fortunately, advisor Ebizo was cautious, or the losses would have been huge, praised a middle-aged official with a white cloth wrapped around his head. "Yes, Sosuke's strength is tremendous. We must be careful and deliberate when dealing with the Shinobi sect," agreed a burly, bald official. Relief and fear mixed on the faces of the Hidden Sand leaders. Even as one of the 5 great Shinobi villages, they would struggle to withstand the retaliation of someone like the ninja god. Decline seemed nearly unavoidable. "We also need to be wary of Iwagakure," another stated. "From how they've acted before, they had this intelligence earlier but hid it from us. They tried to push us into conflict with the Shinobi sect." The others showed their displeasure. Iwagakure's conduct had felt off, willing to pay a large fee, yet unwilling to commit troops. Now it looked as if Iwagakure neither wanted the Shinobi sect to expand and take their share, nor wanted Sosuke's wrath turned on themselves. Instead, they tried to manipulate Hidden Sand, landlocked and already in geographic conflict with the Shinobi sect, to do their dirty work. "Of course we must be careful," Ebizo said after a moment's thought, "but we also need cooperation. The ninja world looks calm on the surface, but the hidden conflicts are worse than during the Third Shinobi World War. Sosuke is leading the Shinobi sect to rise and disturb the balance. Mu Yue, who has the potential to be a ninja god, has taken the Hokage seat and is strengthening ties with the Hidden Mist, as if preparing to sweep the world with a mist alliance. The whole situation is like a barrel packed with explosive tags, one spark and it all goes off. Iwagakure taking the initiative to share intelligence shows how tense things are. Advisor Ebizo is right, the white cloth official agreed. If we can truly unite with Iwagakure and Kumogakure, whether to eliminate the Shinobi sect or to resist Konoha and the Hidden Mist, it will be far easier. Iwagakure had misled them before, but from a broader perspective, Hidden Sand could not cut off cooperation entirely. Retaliation against Iwagakure was impossible given the current balance. Then, are there any objections to forming an alliance? Rasa asked. He, too, believed an alliance was necessary. No one raised an objection. Rasa began discussing candidates for the Sosuke assassination squad. If Hidden Cloud would also join, forming that squad would be the first major act of the new Shinobi alliance. Land of Lightning, Hidden Cloud Village. After hearing Dodai's report, the third Raikage looked surprised. Since Hiruzen Sarutobi's defeat, he had been eager to learn how strong Sosuke actually was, but precise combat intelligence was lacking. Still, the third Raikage did not yet imagine Sosuke at ninja god level. Defeating Hiruzen was not the same as equaling a ninja god. Strong shinobi like Hiruzen were rare, but they appeared every decade or two. Senju Hashirama, however, had been recognized as the strongest in centuries. Could he have been training in some secret place of the Shinobi sect? The third Raikage wondered. A power that terrifying should have left legends. When Sosuke rose to fame after defeating Hanzo, Kumogakure briefly investigated him and found nothing. When news spread that Sosuke had defeated Hiruzen, the third Raikage sent the Hidden Cloud Anbu to investigate, and still found nothing. Sosuke seemed to have come from nowhere. Before he went to the Land of Rain to lecture, there were no clues. That only made the third Raikage more wary. A threat like this explains why Onoki was so eager to share intelligence, he said grimly. A ninja god-level threat alone could upset the existing order of the great villages. If Sosuke ended up stronger than Rama had been, the outcome would be even more unpredictable. Raikage-sama, I think we should accept Iwagakure's proposal. Iwagakure, Hidden Sand, and Kumogakure should unite to form an assassination squad to study and, if possible, eliminate Sosuke, Dodai suggested. Even forming the squad and not acting keeps our relations with the Shinobi sect intact. But if we don't unify, no single village can eliminate Sosuke. We can only watch him and his sect grow under his protection. Dodai argued that forming a united squad carried more upside than downside. Gather intelligence first, act only if there's a real chance, otherwise remain inactive to avoid losses. Dodai's right. It's time we unite, the third Raikage agreed after thinking it through. Even he had to admit a single village's strength was insufficient in the current world. After answers from Hidden Sand and Kumogakure, the three-village secret meeting was held again, this time at the same port town on the western coast of the Land of Lightning, chosen for secrecy. Who would suspect Hidden Sand would sail from the Land of Earth with Iwagakure to meet in the Land of Lightning? The attendees changed somewhat. Iwagakure still sent Reshi, captain of the Rock Ninja Blast Squad. Hidden Sand and Kumogakure sent more prominent representatives to show seriousness. Hidden Sand's representative was a burly, bald senior official. Saku, Jonin class leader, son of the second Kazekage, and a renowned master of puppet jutsu, led their delegation. Yakushimaru became Saku's deputy. Kumogakure sent the third Raikage's son, fourth Raikage A, with Dodai as deputy. At the meeting, Iwagakure, Kumogakure, and Hidden Sand formally established the Sosuke Assassination Squad. It would have three main teams, each led by a representative captain from the three villages. Iwagakure provided the general captain, while senior officials from Hidden Cloud and Hidden Sand would be deputy general captains. Hidden Sand and Kumogakure had few objections. Iwagakure currently gathered the most intelligence and was cooperating with the Shinobi sect, making them the natural intelligence lead. Besides, the title of general captain carried little real power compared to operational captains. To operate discreetly, the three villages secretly built the assassination squad's headquarters on the border between the land of Earth and the land of Rain, with a branch on the border between the land of Wind and the land of Rain. Because of distance, the land of Lightning had no branch. Instead, Kumogakure led a branch inside the land of Rivers. When the three great villages worked together, their combined power was terrifying. With Iwagakure's cooperation, the Sosuke Assassination Squad quietly became the largest and strongest intelligence organization in the current ninja world. They transferred most of their powerful intelligence operatives into the new squad. Although called an assassination squad, the organization not only surveilled the Shinobi sect, but watched Konoha and the Hidden Mist as well. Most of its energy, however, was focused on the Shinobi sect. It was, after all, a product of the three villages uniting in response to the present crisis. While the three great villages conducted covert cooperation, the public exchange meeting between Hidden Sand and Iwagakure, meant to draw attention, was wrapping up. During this time, Chiyo sought out Sasori repeatedly. Though Sasori claimed he had no time and scorned the visits, he still showed up each time for her. What pained Chiyo was that while Sasori would see her, he refused to listen and would not leave the Shinobi sect. On the last day before she returned to the sand, Chiyo visited Sasori one more time. Despite his repeated rejections, she wouldn't give up. As an elder and a pillar of the Sand Village, Chiyo knew of the major developments, Sosuke's true strength, and the alliance of the three great villages. Seeing that intelligence made her even more determined to persuade Sasori to leave. If the three great villages targeted them together, Sosuke might be able to protect himself and his inner circle, but he likely couldn't protect the entire Shinobi sect. Someone like Sasori, who joined the sect later in life, could easily die in the coming struggle. Sasori, leave the Shinobi sect. This place will soon be the most dangerous spot in the entire ninja world, Chiyo said seriously. Most dangerous? Are you saying Hidden Sand will declare war on the Shinobi sect? Sasori asked indifferently, his expression unchanged. It will be worse than that, Chiyo said carefully, not revealing the full intelligence. She was, after all, a Hidden Sand ninja and couldn't tell sect secrets directly to Sasori. Oh, I'm not leaving, Sasori replied flatly. Chiyo's face showed a pleading note. If she could, she would sacrifice her life to save him. Why was Sasori so resolute? Did their blood tie matter less than the few years he'd spent in the Shinobi sect? My answer is still the same, Sasori insisted. Chiyo wondered what had happened to him after he left the sand, how he had lived those years, how he'd joined the Shinobi sect, or how he had become so close to Nagato. As his grandmother, she felt she had failed. It was no wonder he wouldn't listen. I'm developing a ninjutsu that can revive the dead. If it works, Koji and the others could return to you. Even then, will you still refuse to leave the Shinobi sect to protect yourself? Chiyo finally pulled out her trump card. She had not planned to mention the one's own life reincarnation technique. For one, it wasn't yet perfected. For another, its cost and restrictions would be severe. But she couldn't afford hesitation now. She had pursued that technique for Sasori. If he died, her work would be pointless. At the name, Sasori's pupils dilated and a rare flash of emotion crossed his face. Koji was the father he had lost on the battlefield. This place will indeed be dangerous. To make me leave, you'd even invent such a story, Sasori said, returning to his cool demeanor. As a research-minded ninja, he understood how hard reviving the dead would be, especially the longer the death had been. Sasori, I'm not lying. I'm really developing a ninjutsu to revive the dead, and I've made progress. It will succeed soon, Chiyo insisted, growing anxious when he didn't believe her. She tried a few more appeals, but Sasori was unmoved. That's enough for today, he said, shaking his head. Chiyo's lips moved, but in the end she only sighed deeply. Protect yourself, Sasori. Chiyo turned and walked slowly toward the door. Her figure seemed suddenly more stooped. Grandma, farewell, Sasori said softly. He knew Chiyo acted for his good, but he couldn't leave for a vague promise of resurrection. After Nagato returned to the room, Sasori related part of the conversation. Sasori, don't worry. As long as I'm here, I won't let you two run into danger, Nagato said sincerely. Sasori pouted. What you two? I'm not a ninja of your Shinobi sect. Captain Obito, why are they staring at us like that? Are they looking for a fight? Anko asked softly, noticing the odd glances from the Land of Rain's residents in Shinobi. Probably not. Obito scratched his head, unsure how to explain. The chain of events that had led them here was complicated and long. It wasn't something he could summarize in a sentence. They probably just haven't seen Konoha Shinobi around in a while, Izumo Kamizuki offered. Back when tensions were high, I even thought we were headed for war with the Shinobi sect. That wasn't far off. The Shinobi sect's leader, Sosuke, had killed Konoha's former assistant Fire Shadow, Danzo Shimura, and had bested the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. At the time, many in Konoha expected war to follow. Now, however, the situation had shifted. Konoha hadn't gone to war with the Shinobi sect. Instead, they were here in Six Path City seeking cooperation. You could say that, Obito agreed. Izumo's assessment made sense. Given the bitter rivalry, ordinary Konoha ninja wouldn't have come to the Land of Rain openly wearing their headbands back then. It had likely been a long time since anyone had seen Konoha Shinobi in town without provoking a scene. Then when I get back to Six Path City, I'm going to find their specialty snacks. Bring some back to Konoha and they'll sell like crazy. Kotetsu Hagane's eyes lit up. He'd found a business idea. Anko scowled. No matter how rare something is, if it's terrible, nobody will buy it. As a seasoned snack connoisseur, she disliked Kotetsu's opportunistic enthusiasm. Good idea, but Kotetsu, don't go getting yourself labeled a spy again, Izumo chuckled. Kotetsu had once been mistaken for a spy because he'd been watching a performance with binoculars. He'd been nearly in tears from laughter when it happened. His face darkened at the memory. That incident had been an accident, he swore. He'd seize any chance to redeem himself. Jonin Obito, be extra vigilant. The Land of Rain is a mixed bag right now. We should be cautious, Nara Shikaku said, looking directly at him. Shikaku was the leader of the negotiation team. Obito was only part of the escort detail. Shikaku didn't suspect the Shinobi sect would resort to treachery, but he worried other villages might try to exploit the situation and escalate tensions between Konoha and the sect. After all, these kinds of opportunistic acts weren't unprecedented, otherwise news of Danzo's death and Hiruzen's defeat wouldn't have spread so fast. I understand, Captain Shikaku, Obito replied, careful not to sound too certain. In his experience, when Kakashi said not to expect surprises, surprises tended to happen. Under Obito's watch, the team reached Six Path City without incident. Once inside, the Shinobi sect provided escorts, and the negotiations proceeded more smoothly. Shikaku made his way to the sect's office and sat down with Kakuzu, the legendary second-in-command. The Shinobi sect doesn't refuse anyone who shows sincerity, Kakuzu said bluntly. What price is Konoha willing to pay for prosthetic limbs? Kakuzu bore some personal resentment toward Konoha, but he kept his emotions out of the negotiation. If Konoha came with enough sincerity, they would be treated like any other client. Are the puppet prosthetic limbs sold ready-made and accompanied by surgery, or are you offering the techniques themselves? Shikaku asked instead of answering directly. He wanted to control the rhythm of the discussion. All the techniques? Dream on, Kakuzu replied with a grin. We will release parts of the technique, piece by piece, but only in exchange for techniques we lack. Puppet prosthetics were unique in the current Shinobi world, a veritable money tree for the Shinobi sect. They couldn't or wouldn't give them away all at once. The sect planned to trade specific puppet techniques over time to acquire skills it needed and to accelerate its development. Sasori had even suggested that if Sunagakure dedicated itself to research, they could probably crack the puppet prosthetic secrets within 3 years, so hoarding the full method made strategic sense. Kakuzu listed the techniques the sect would initially part with, and then stated what they wanted in return. Scroll-making techniques. Shikaku considered that. Scrolls were essential, used to record secrets and to serve as mediums for many jutsu. The 5 great villages had particularly advanced scroll-crafting knowledge. Still, there were many processing and production techniques beyond simple crafting that constituted true value. If it's only scroll techniques, that's not much of a trade, Shikaku said after a moment. Internally, he thought it might be acceptable, but he couldn't accept the offer outright. He pushed for better terms. Saying a few more words cost nothing, and it might gain them more. I hear Iwagakure's scroll techniques are superior as well, Kakuzu said calmly. No matter Shikaku's objections, Konoha needed the sex prosthetics more than the reverse. In the end, Shikaku rejected Kakuzu's initial terms and asked to reconvene the next day. After stepping out, Shikaku allowed himself a small smile. Securing an agreement to buy prosthetic limbs would already be a success. The chance to obtain any techniques at all was a bonus. He hadn't expected negotiations to go so smoothly. When Konoha had first tried to deal with the sect, Konoha's offers had shown little respect. Shikaku had prepared for a tough fight, but the sect had been surprisingly reasonable, neither dismissive nor hostile. The next day, both sides hammered out the details. The sect would provide puppet prosthetic limbs and some selectable techniques. Konoha would pay and supply the techniques the sect sought. Satisfied, the two parties prepared to leave Six Paths City. Before departing, and under sect protection, Nara, Shikaku, and the Konoha party toured Six Paths City. The city's grown so fast. When I was here for the youth martial arts tournament, it was just a small town, Obito said, eyes wide. He was one of the few in the group who remembered the place from before. This time, the transformation was staggering. To build a prosperous city from nothing so quickly, the Shinobi sect must have capable people, Shikaku mused quietly. One strong individual could drive progress, but creating a thriving city in a few years demanded more than that. It took organization and many talented contributors. This place is nice, Anko said, thumbs up after sampling treats on a snack street. Are there any Six Paths City specialties? Kotetsu's hand shot up. He planned to buy every snack he could and bring them back to Konoha to sell. The rest of the team, having enjoyed the trip, agreed it had been a success. I could come back here for fun next time, Obito said. That dango shop was great. A thought crossed his mind. The Rain Village isn't far from Six Paths City, is it? Maybe I can challenge Hanzo on the way. He had long wanted to fight Hanzo. If he could beat Hanzo alone, surely he'd earn a title even grander than demigod, something to one-up Jiraiya's Sannin bragging. Hanzo's already dead, Shikaku said, expression tightening. Hanzo and Danzo had died on the same day, but while Danzo's death spread like wildfire, news of Hanzo's passing had barely traveled. Dead? Obito blinked, stunned. He'd been imagining a duel, a story to tell. Suddenly that possibility had vanished. Even though he and Hanzo had never met, the loss of the goal left him oddly melancholy. Don't worry, Captain Obito. Challenge Sosuke instead. He's stronger than Hanzo. Anko chirped, trying to console him. Obito's mouth twitched. Thanks, but no. With Kamui and Flying Thunder God, he might take Hanzo, but Sosuke? That was an invitation to be crushed. Back in Konoha, Shikaku and Obito went together to the Hokage's office to file their reports. Shikaku reported first, outlining the puppet prosthetics cooperation. Then Obito reported on the escort. Afterward, Mu Yue informed Obito that Anko's original captain had fully recovered and asked him what he planned to do next. Obito froze. He'd been serving as captain only temporarily. Now, the question hung in the air. Keep leading a team or step back. He fell into thought, the decision sitting heavy and uncertain. 718. Inheritance. It's rare. Captain Obito didn't give us a break after the mission this time. Walking toward the training ground, Anko said it casually. Normally after a mission, Obito adjusted their rest according to the difficulty. 1 day for easy missions, 2 or 3 for harder ones. Kotetsu Hagane grumbled. Maybe this mission really was too simple. Even if it was S-rank on paper, there was no fighting at all. It had been his first S-rank task. He'd been nervous at first about letting Obito down in battle, but it had turned out disappointingly easy. Izumo Kamizuki nodded. Feels like a C-rank, but it's still S-rank pay, he added. Missions weren't just for the village. Money mattered too. They joked and chatted until they reached the training ground. Captain Obito, good morning, Anko called, raising a hand as she saw Obito waiting there. Izumo and Kotetsu greeted him as well. Morning, Obito replied with a smile. What are we training today, taijutsu or ninjutsu? Neither, Obito said. Today is special training. At first they thought this was just words, until Obito explained the rules. You 3 can use any means to try to hit my shadow clone. If you hit it, the training ends. If you don't, every minute the clone avoids you will add 5 questions to your tally, 10 minutes max. They stared. Hit Obito? Even a shadow clone seemed untouchable. Seeing their faces, Obito added, "Don't worry, the clone will only dodge, won't attack, and I'm not exaggerating its speed." "If we don't hit it in 10 minutes, that's 50 questions?" Anko asked, eyes wide. "Yes." The smile drained from her face. She slapped her forehead dramatically. "Oh no, my head feels funny. Maybe I caught a cold sleeping without a blanket." She clasped her hands and looked at Obito. "Captain, I'm sorry. I can't train today. I'm going to Konoha Hospital." She turned to leave, trying to escape. Obito suddenly appeared in front of her with a whoosh. "I don't think you were heading to Konoha Hospital." Anko patted her head and feigned distress. "Captain Obito, my head is really overheated. I must have taken the wrong road." She tried to turn, but Obito put a hand on her shoulder, a grip so strong she couldn't budge. "You're the worst team I've led. When teacher Mu Yue put me through this training, I took it myself," he said, shaking his head. Anko, Izumo, and Kotetsu exchanged blank looks. Obito wasn't entirely wrong. He had only led their squad, but that remark landed. Anko tried a sweeter tactic. "Can we have fewer questions? Like one question every 2 minutes?" "This training's already been reduced," Obito said seriously. "Do you think Guy, Shisui, and I are where we are from easy training?" Mu Yue's lessons were beyond imagination. At his tone, they sobered. They knew some of Obito's past. His words carried weight. Truth be told, Obito was a bit misleading. While his past training had been brutal, the question-based punishment he used now was indeed how he'd been honed. Kotetsu thought to himself that to reach Obito's level must have been unbelievably hard. "All right, let's start. I won't let you down," Kotetsu shouted, determined. Obito smiled faintly and formed a hand sign. A shadow clone burst into being. "Begin." Anko, Izumo, and Kotetsu poured chakra into their bodies and charged. But their moves were obvious to a veteran like Obito. The clone ducked and danced away, outrunning all three and simply circling them. The trio split up and formed hand signs while sprinting. "Fire release, flame vortex," one cried. "Water release, raging stream blast," another shouted. "Lightning release, raging lightning spear." They were trying to cooperate to corner the clone, because catching Obito at straight speed was impossible. The clone answered with a hand sign of its own. "Fire release, fire dragon flame bullet." A torrent of flame spat out like a dragon. Boom after boom, thick smoke bloomed from the blast. Their attacks were neutralized by the shadow clone's superior speed and that massive fire jutsu. The morning exercise was harder than they'd expected. Seeing their worried faces, Obito's smile deepened. He remembered how much he'd suffered from this drill and how many questions he'd had to write afterward. But it had worked. His breathing technique and combat ability had improved dramatically. "Training's over. Each of you has 50 questions," Obito called once 10 minutes were up. "No," Anko nearly wailed. 50 questions felt like doom. Kotetsu stared at his hands, chastened. They were young and determined, but Obito's level made them feel small. "Don't worry. 2 options," Obito said, softer. 1. Do harder physical training now to offset the questions. 2. Train normally and take the questions later. Not a monster after all. He knew theory would torment those weak on it. "I'll take the training." Anko stepped forward immediately. Anything was better than essays. Izumo and Kotetsu echoed her, though their reason was the opposite. They wanted to be stronger. "All right, let's begin." Obito put them through a brutal morning modeled on Guy's training regimen. By lunchtime, they were drenched in sweat and had to sit for minutes before they could stand. Obito handed them a small vial. "Eat this," he said. It was the training tonic Mu Yue had given him, healing hidden injuries and relieving fatigue. After drinking it, they felt a little better and followed Obito to a barbecue restaurant. "It's on me today. Order whatever you want," Obito said. Starved from the workout, they piled meat on their plates. Anko stuffed her mouth and thanked him between bites. Kotetsu and Izumo gave thumbs up. Obito only smiled. Refueled, Anko spoke up. "Captain, let's keep training. We offset 35 questions this morning, so there should be 15 left, right?" Obito smiled. "Don't rush. There's more than one special training. This afternoon is combat training. One side attacks, the other defends. Attackers start with 40 questions. Each hit they land reduces their questions by 2. Defenders get 2 questions added for each hit they take. We'll do 2 rounds. Round 1, Izumo attacks, Kotetsu defends. Round 2, switch." Izumo and Kotetsu relaxed a bit. Compared to the morning, this sounded simpler. If they just refused to fight, they'd each only have 40 questions. Obito pulled out a printed test to show them the kind of questions they'd be stuck with. If you still have questions at the end, they'll look like this, he said, handing it over. The sample began. Material 1. During the Warring States period, there were two powerful ninja clans, the Senju, who valued love, and the other was, based on the material and your knowledge, analyze. They glanced at the questions and realized these weren't simple memory quizzes. Kotetsu's face tightened. How about this? You let me hit you 10 times first, then you don't move. When we switch, you hit me 10 times. That way we'll each knock out 20 questions, Izumo suggested in a low voice. Then why not just stand still the whole time? Kotetsu replied, unimpressed. It's Captain Obito's drill. Standing still would be disrespectful, Izumo said, trying to justify it. Kotetsu remained stubborn. Eventually, Izumo reluctantly agreed to a truce. Begin! They both surged forward. Each wanted to catch the other off guard and score hits, both desperate to reduce their end-of-day tally. Even with the morning's effort, they could at best erase 35 questions. 40 more in the afternoon would mean 20 nasty questions to take home. No wonder they were trying everything. Good news, only 3 team members, Anko murmured, relieved. Obito had a shadow clone help count hits for Izumo and Kotetsu, while his main body led Anko to the trap course he'd set up. You have to dodge the traps in time, avoid interference from my clone, reach the target, and grab the token. If you're even a little late, more questions accumulate, he explained. Anko's grin froze. That course sounded harder and more exhausting than Izumo and Kotetsu's bout. The afternoon unfolded mercilessly. By the end of the day, the three of them were each saddled with hundreds of questions. What is the meaning of life? Anko lay on the ground, eyes glassy, whispering. She thought she might never recover. Obito couldn't help laughing. I'm not asking you to do them in a few days. Take your time, months or even years. There are only so many questions, and I won't be your captain tomorrow, so you won't be getting this special training again. They snapped to attention. What? You're not our captain anymore? Did we do something wrong? I don't hate the training that much, Anko said quickly. Obito scratched his head. You didn't forget I was temporary, did you? Your real captain has fully recovered. My duty is done. They had forgotten. Their assigned captain had only been recovering. The three of them fell silent for a beat, mortified at not realizing sooner. I'm not leaving Konoha. If you want, bring your test papers to me, and I'll grade them, or ask about training, Obito said, smiling and patting each of them on the shoulder. That warmed them up. Obito grew serious. One more thing. In the future, whether on missions or anything else, think twice and be cautious. Failing special training costs you questions, but in reality, the consequences can be unpredictable. He meant what Mu Yue had meant with the drills. Discipline and caution save lives. We remember, they answered together, eyes a little wet. Good. Tomorrow, Captain Yoshio will be back to lead your training, Obito said, waving. The three shouted their thanks. Captain Obito! Their last cheer for the day. April 1st dawned, and the ninja school opened as usual. But this year the start felt different. The long-awaited school reform had finally gone into effect. The old 6-year system was history. In its place was a 4-year elementary program, followed by a 3-year middle program. The early graduation rule still stood. If a student's skill justified it, they could apply to graduate early, sometimes after only a couple months of study. The only catch was that, under the new split system, a student aiming to become a ninja in one leap now had to pass 2 graduation exams. It was a little more complicated than before. Now, please welcome our esteemed Hokage-sama to the stage for an important speech. A warm round of applause for Lord Fourth, the host intoned, his voice formal and resonant. Clap, clap, clap. Applause rolled through the auditorium like thunder. Students and teachers alike cheered, the teachers perhaps even more excited. They had voted for Mu Yue in the Hokage election. Watching him stand before the ninja school as their Hokage filled them with pride. Mu Yue rose calmly, smiled, and walked to the podium, returning the students' greeting. All students are the school's most precious assets, and Konoha's future, he said. He did not speak at length. A few words of blessing, a few words of expectation, and he sent the students off looking forward to what lay ahead. With Mu Yue's prestige and his reputation at the school, even a short speech stirred many hearts. I need to work harder and contribute to Konoha, just like Lord Fourth, many students thought. Yamato, standing among them, felt the same stirring. He wanted nothing more than to apply for early graduation and become a ninja at once. But it wasn't a decision to make on impulse. He hadn't planned to finish the second year yet, not even the first semester. The pressure came from elsewhere. While Yamato remained a student, some of his peers had already moved far ahead. Obito had been appointed a Jonin squad leader and even had chuunin on his team. Even as a temporary captain, it showed Mu Yue's recognition of Obito's talent. Yamato felt the gap widening. "Yamato, are you graduating this year?" Hyuga Oriko asked quietly. She'd heard him talk about early graduation before. "Unless something unexpected happens, yes, in the next few weeks," Yamato replied with a nod. If he'd not wanted to spend a little more time with his friends, and if the village weren't at peace, he might have graduated at the end of his first year. "Keep it up after you graduate. You could become a great ninja," Oriko said, encouraged. Yamato's early graduation didn't surprise her. His strength made that the natural path. Even teachers marveled. Some swore they had never seen a student so powerful. Asuma, newly promoted to Jonin, had almost been defeated by Yamato during a spar, an encounter that spread Yamato's name through the school. If anything, not graduating would have been the surprise. "You can do it too, Oriko," Yamato said with a smile. She clenched both small fists and nodded. "Next, please welcome our respected principal to the stage, Principal Sarutobi," the host continued. Hiruzen Sarutobi, who had no separate middle school principal to share the duties with because the middle department was only just being added, happily strode up to give his remarks. Nearby, Minato Namikaze watched with a hopeful smile. The reform had been proposed by Mu Yue and planned with Mu Yue's input, but Minato had carried much of the execution on his shoulders. He had invested time, energy, and pride into this change and was eager to see the results. "I'm confident," Mu Yue had said quietly, "and I just want that day to come sooner." Not everyone welcomed the reform. Among the higher ranks, figures like Homura Mitokado and Utane Koharu had criticized such sweeping changes. If the reforms succeeded, though, it would be a political triumph, proof that these younger leaders could shape the village for generations. Beyond the school, other developments were unfolding that worried the great ninja villages. Konoha's cooperation with the Shinobi sect on puppet prosthetics had not been kept secret. The three great ninja villages in the Land of Rain, Kumogakure, Iwagakure, and Sunagakure, picked up the intelligence quickly. At first concern mingled with embarrassment. Sunagakure's puppetry was famed, so why had they not been the first to pursue such prosthetics? The news stung, but it also inspired action. Rasa, the Kazekage, purchased a puppet prosthetic from the Shinobi sect and brought together his village's puppeteers to reverse engineer the technology. Iwagakure and Kumogakure were interested too. Every village had veterans and soldiers left with disabilities from years of war. Being able to restore a capable fighter, even with a prosthetic, was invaluable. But neither Kumo nor Iwa wanted to put money directly into the Shinobi sect's coffers. So the three villages pooled resources. Suna contributed puppet expertise, while Iwa and Kumo offered funding. Together they founded a clandestine research institute to study prosthetics domestically. The institute made quick progress. Working from the Shinobi sect's finished product, they produced a phased result within 6 months, successfully transplanting a manufactured puppet prosthetic onto a disabled ninja without apparent side effects. For the three villages, this vindicated their cooperation. The next technical obstacle was integrating the prosthetic with a chakra circulation system comparable to the Shinobi sects. If they could match that, the research would be a complete success. Even the interim achievement had value. It could be sold to wealthy civilians. More importantly, the shared success began to justify the uneasy alliance among the three villages, many of whose 9 had only recently been at war with one another. Yet progress was not uniform. The assassination squad assigned to infiltrate the Shinobi sect and gather intelligence on Sosuke had achieved almost nothing the past year. Their attempts to kill or even properly surveil Sosuke had failed. Onoki, sitting in the Tsuchikage's office, worried that without a decisive strike against Sosuke, the fragile cooperation would unravel. The shinobi sect's existence loomed large. If they continued to advance unchecked, the alliance might fall apart. On a personal note, Onoki's one bright spot in the year had been his new granddaughter. Kitsuchi's wife had given birth to a daughter, Kurotsuchi. He took comfort in the thought of teaching her dust release when she was older, a rare and complex technique he hoped would not be lost. And then the shinobi sect reported another technological leap, a breakthrough with ninjutsu scrolls. The news put the assassination squad on high alert. Scrolls that could store and release ninjutsu, whether by sealing techniques into paper or crafting powerful talismans like explosive tags, were tools that could drastically change battlefield capability. Even a newly graduated genin could grasp the implications. High-quality ninja tools could define a village's strength. Breakthroughs in scroll technology would raise the overall effectiveness of every force that possessed them. The three great ninja villages felt the urgency immediately. 720. Changes in the situation over the past year. Land of Rain, Six Path City, Chakra Science Research Institute. A group of shinobi sect ninja in uniform watched Nagato from the edge of the experimental platform, tense and expectant. Nagato, utterly focused, molded his chakra and unleashed a water release technique at the scroll placed before him. Water release, water dragon bullet technique. He snapped his seals in quick succession, shaping a roaring water dragon that surged toward the scroll. The platform scroll appeared to link to some boundless space. The massive water dragon, strong enough to send an adult flying, vanished the moment it touched the parchment. The scroll didn't even tremble. "Has the improvement worked?" Yahiko asked, eyes bright. "Perhaps," Kakuzu replied cautiously. Sealing techniques weren't his specialty. One successful attempt isn't conclusive. Let's try it again. Mu Yue had enhanced the sealing method used in ninjutsu scrolls, simplifying production and increasing storage capacity. Nagato repeated the test several more times, every time the jutsu disappeared cleanly into the scroll. A shinobi sect ninja couldn't help cheering. With the new scroll's success rate, most of the sect's ninjas could be issued scrolls, essentially equipping them with a set of ninjutsu without them having to learn each technique, and the scrolls consumed little chakra. If these scrolls get out to other villages, can they replicate the technique? Kakuzu asked Sosuke. If not, the shinobi sect would have a lucrative monopoly. The new scrolls were superior to the old ones in two major ways. First, they were far easier to produce. The older method required highly skilled sealers, was failure-prone, and costly. If the shinobi sect undercut prices, they could dominate that market. Second, the new scrolls raised the upper limit of what could be sealed. Most commercially available scrolls favored water release. The old sealing method handled lightning or fire poorly. Putting a fire release, Great Fireball, into an old scroll produced an awkward burst of flame from the scroll's center, rather than a true fireball, making it less useful than a cheap explosive tag. Mu Yue's scrolls didn't suffer from that. Releasing a technique from them felt nearly identical to a shinobi performing the seals themselves. If it's Konoha, they might be able to decode the method, Mu Yue said after thinking it over. His improvements were essentially built on Uzumaki sealing principles. If Konoha pooled its sealing masters, Kushina for example, they could probably decipher it, given time and direct access to the technology. Having the technique laid out for research is always easier than inventing it from scratch. Mu Yue's sealing level was high, but not so high that Kushina couldn't understand the fundamentals. Then secrecy is crucial, Kakuzu said, nodding. He had no intention of selling the method indiscriminately. If the shinobi sect really rose to become the sixth great power, it would earn enemies in multiple directions. Secrecy matters, but we can sell selectively, to daimyo or to certain villages, Mu Yue replied, shrugging. Even if Konoha starts studying it, by the time they figure it out, we'll already have better versions. Mu Yue wasn't worried about someone eventually reverse engineering his work. He already had stronger iterations in development. And if there was money to be made, he would take it, partly to make the 5 great shinobi villages jealous and spur them to invest more in technology. Still, this milestone didn't fully satisfy him. His true goal was to forge genuine chakra technology, to fuse chakra with technology in ways that lifted the entire ninja world's overall strength and productivity. Kakuzu's eyes lit up. Then we can make a fortune. Selling to the daimyo, who had money but weak forces, would be especially profitable. Because the Shinobi sect lacked enough manpower for mass production, Mu Yue mobilized a large contingent of Rain Ninja to Six Paths City. He also used the moment to publicly announce himself as the leader of the Rain Village. The major villages already suspected Sosuke's control, but smaller powers had been surprised. With the Rain Village's forces backing the Shinobi sect, its manpower problem vanished. In strength and scale, the sect came to rank first below the 5 great Shinobi villages. News of the new scrolls spread across the ninja world. Countries and villages debated the Shinobi sect's growing power and its technological advances. Riding that momentum, the sect expanded Six Paths City, attracting like-minded ninja and steadily consolidating power. The Land of Rain benefited too. Driven by Six Paths City, its eastern region developed rapidly. Even Bird Country, which housed a Shinobi sect branch, saw new opportunities. The 5 great villages watched with growing anxiety. Iwagakure, Kumogakure, and Sunagakure quickly set up research labs and pulled together elite personnel to try to reverse engineer the new scroll technology. The significance of the breakthrough forced these once fractured alliances to cooperate more closely. At a high-level Konoha meeting, Homura Mitokado and Utatane Koharu strongly pushed for Konoha to join the research push. Hiruzen Sarutobi proposed increasing funding for scientific efforts. The Shinobi sect could not be allowed to stay ahead indefinitely. Mu Yue welcomed this result and approved the outreach. After the meeting, Minato Namikaze accompanied Mu Yue back to the Hokage office. "I'm sorry, Mu Yue. At such a critical time, I haven't been much help," Minato said apologetically. He'd been leaving work on time to take care of the pregnant Kushina, and with Konoha busy, he felt guilty for not doing more. "There's no need to apologize. Kushina's pregnancy is important to you and to the village," Mu Yue said, shaking his head. "Pregnancy is especially delicate for a Jinchuriki. The host's chakra is drawn to nurture the fetus, weakening seals and risking the tailed beast breaking free." Hearing that, Minato felt some relief. Fugaku's second son was born safely. I hope Kushina has a smooth delivery too. The two families had a good relationship. Minato had a decent rapport with Uchiha Fugaku, and Kushina was friends with Uchiha Makoto. "It will be smooth," Mu Yue said. Obito hadn't fallen into darkness. Madara had already been killed by him, and only Black Zetsu remained. There was no reason or strength to recreate the Nine Tails Night in Konoha. Minato joked, "When the child is born, Mu Yue, you must visit often, or the child might mistake us." Mu Yue thought about it. If the child was Naruto, it would be difficult to predict. That evening, Shisui walked to the small park in the Uchiha compound. He and Itachi had agreed to meet every Sunday unless something urgent arose. Shisui arrived with a smile. "Itachi, good evening." They sat on a park bench. Just as Shisui was about to speak, Itachi suddenly stood and looked at him with uncommon seriousness. "Shisui-Nisan, please teach me about ninja training," he said. Shisui blinked in surprise. "Why suddenly? At your age, you should already be learning basics." Uchiha families taught much before academy enrollment. Itachi had received early instruction. "Because I want to become stronger and protect my younger brother," Itachi answered honestly. The moment he spoke his younger brother's name, a new, indescribable feeling surfaced in the 5-year-old, a fierce, personal responsibility to keep that fragile newborn safe. His parents and Shisui had told him how cruel this world could be. To survive and protect those he cared for, he needed strength. Shisui, in Itachi's eyes, was the most formidable person he knew. "Your younger brother, Sasuke?" Shisui said, touched. That kind of devotion was good. With it, Itachi would not become the cold, ruthless rogue described in some future reports. Yes, Itachi nodded. He had dutifully learned what other Uchiha taught because his father urged it. Now he truly, from the heart, wanted to get stronger. "If you want real instruction, be prepared. I won't go easy on you," Shisui said. He was Mu Yue's first disciple and intended to pass on that standard. "I will persevere." "Thank you, Shisui-Nisan," Itachi replied. Shisui ruffled his small head and led him to a quiet stand of trees, curious to discover the depth of the boy's talent. It was astonishing to think this child would one day carry out the Uchiha clan's darkest destiny at 13. At 5, Itachi's abilities should hint at such potential. What have you learned so far? Shisui asked, running a quick baseline test. Ninja tool throwing and using chakra to enhance the body, Itachi replied and demonstrated. In a flurry, he threw 6 kunai, each hitting the target cleanly and piercing through. Then he gathered chakra in his fist and struck a nearby tree. The trunk shuddered, leaves rustled, and a dent marked his blow. Very good, Shisui praised, although internally he noted something odd. For a 5-year-old, Itachi's tool throwing and chakra control were impressive, but not exceptionally outstanding compared with other prodigies. Shisui himself had been stronger at that age. Perhaps Itachi's talent simply hadn't been triggered yet. Before Obito received Mu Yue's guidance, he'd been at the bottom of the academy class for years. It was only after Mu Yue's intervention and his Sharingan awakening that his talent bloomed. Shisui could not have guessed that the real reason Itachi's trajectory differed from other timelines was that Mu Yue had ended the Third Shinobi World War early, preventing Fugaku from taking the boy to the front and thus changing his life. Now you meet the requirements for learning basic ninjutsu. I'll teach you the Uchiha's fire release, great fireball technique, Shisui said. He formed the seals deliberately: serpent, ram, monkey, boar, horse, tiger. At the final tiger seal, he exhaled a large fireball that slammed into the open ground. See clearly? The key points are. He was interrupted as Itachi moved. The boy copied the seals rapidly. Chakra coalesced in his throat, and a smaller but complete great fireball burst from him and struck the ground. His aptitude for ninjutsu is good, Shisui thought. He himself had learned the technique after watching it once. As a basic fire release, it wasn't difficult, but Itachi had picked it up quickly. Shisui continued to guide him in tool throwing and taijutsu, watching the boy train with a quiet pleasure. Seeing Itachi's determination to protect his younger brother pleased Shisui. The Uchiha clan was prospering, the police force reform was almost complete, external tensions had eased, and now only internal issues within the clan remained to be addressed.